Finally tonight, a special day.
I think it's really important because there's a lot of people like me, for example, who don't really have the money to afford a fancy prom dress.
If it weren't for Project Prom, then we probably wouldn't have known what we were going to wear.
More than 350 high school seniors in New York City were dressed head to toe for prom, all free of charge, thanks to Temple Emmanuel's annual Project Prom. Students were able to choose from dresses, evening bags, shoes, and accessories last week with the help from Temple volunteers acting as personal shoppers. Temple partners with vendors who donate the items, making the boutique experience possible. Keep that in mind with all the anti-Semitism in this country. Tomorrow, in Special Report, new Fox polling on the 2026 midterms, including the generic House vote. Which party would do better on issues in the current political landscape? Thanks for watching.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with us. We're following three breaking stories tonight. The Southern Poverty Law Center indicted late tonight on fraud charges. They're accused of funneling millions of dollars to extremist groups like the ones they were supposedly investigating, like the KKK. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is on his way over from that press conference. He'll join us here in just a few moments. Plus, J.D. Vance's trip to Pakistan. Those peace talks, off for now. And President Trump is extending the ceasefire with Iran. But first, we have a Fox News alert. Polls closing moments ago in Virginia in a special election vote that could determine whether Donald Trump gets impeached for the third time. Now, there are no candidates running on the ballot, but it contained one single question. And if it passes, the Virginia Assembly will be able to redraw congressional districts to likely give Democrats 4 more seats in the House. Here's the text. Should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections while ensuring Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting after the 2030 census?
I just feel that it's a constitutional right that we should not be, gerrymandering our districts in order to adjust temporarily for, fairness in the sense that in the way that they're trying to articulate fairness. So I just don't like the way that they're trying to go about it.
Now, many voters just found the whole question confusing, thanks to both the wording of that ballot question that I just read and the grossly misleading ads claiming that a yes vote was a vote for fairness and to unrig the process. Ridiculous. The opposite is true, of course. So let's go live to Alexandria, Virginia, where Fox News correspondent Mark Meredith is standing by with the latest. Mark, how are things looking tonight?
Laura, good evening to you. I've been amazed at the turnout at this polling precinct here in Alexandria. Just a few moments ago, we saw a woman running in high heels to get into this polling place by 7 o'clock. That gives you an idea of the energy and enthusiasm that we are seeing all across Virginia. Even before today's election, more than 1.3 million people cast their ballot in Virginia. So, as you talked about, the big question of tonight is what did voters decide? We still have to wait for the results to come in. But the question was, of course, is whether or not to give the state legislature the power to redraw congressional maps now before the November midterms, make those maps last a few more years, at least until 2030, until the next census. But it would completely shift the power dynamics in the Commonwealth. Right now, Virginia is split with 6 Democratic House districts, 5 Republican House districts. This would change it to 10-1. Democrats there would have a 10-1 split when it came to the makeup in the House of Representatives, likely for the state of Virginia. That would be a big change, and both parties knew it. Democrats and Republicans, Laura, have been spending so much money, time, money, and resources trying to get out the vote because this is a historic vote in itself, especially so close to a consequential midterm election. So what do we expect? We are expecting this to be a fairly close race, given that the polling even a month out showed this gap narrowing. The governor in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, she's the new Democrat elected, came into office in January. She has seen her popularity take a nosedive in recent weeks. There's been questions whether or not it was tied specifically to this referendum or other issues impacting Virginia. But either way, Laura, it's going to be an exciting night. A lot of people watching what happens in the Commonwealth. Laura.
Mark, thank you very much. And we're going to track the results and come back to this later in the show. But this was a big one. Now to the Middle East. As I said, Vice President Vance's trip to Pakistan for peace talks is off. He was supposed to leave today, but it was abruptly canceled. Now, this came after President Trump said he's extending the ceasefire with Iran once again. and he's holding off on any attack until Iran submits a unified proposal and peace talks are finished one way or another, the president said. Here to react is Robert Harward. He's retired vice admiral and former Navy SEAL who spent his teenage years in Iran. Vice admiral. Wow, this is frustrating. The president wants peace. He never wanted war, yet here we are. How do you deal with a group that you're not sure who's running what?
Well, what's clear is the president controls not only the strategy, but the tempo. So, okay, we're going to stay peace. We're going to have a misfire. We're not going to go re-engage now. But he drives the timeline now. So he's really kept the strategy with the Iranians guessing now, not us. And this plays to everyone. Peace is at hand. Let's get the traffic moving again. So I think a very smart move by the president.
You know, Iran's response was typical. An advisor to its parliament speaker, again, we don't even know who these people are, warned that Iran will take initiative and that the extension was a ploy to buy time for a surprise strike by the U.S. They're already threatening a military response to this ceasefire. What should we expect out of this?
Same thing, just rhetoric. They've been heavy on rhetoric, less on action. And the president's made it clear what his objectives are. You're going to capitulate and meet my objectives, or we're going to call the shots. And we can ratchet it up at any time we want, be it tomorrow if he's so inclined. So it's clear the president has the upper hand, and inevitably the Iranians are going to have to come to the table.
Well, the flip side argument is they're dictating the terms because we're waiting around for them. Right? We could take Kharg Island if we wanted to. It's a dangerous mission, but we could do it. We could knock out, you know, what we needed to knock out there. Our men could handle it, but it is a very risky and dangerous proposition. The president's aware of that. But, you know, they seem to believe they can wait this out, at least for a little longer.
Laura, we can do anything we want at any time. That's quite clear. We've demonstrated that during this entire campaign. How long can they go without money? How long can they keep their power on? How long can they feed their people? So that's the game here. Okay, we'll wait, but you're going to run dry on money and you're going to have bigger problems. We can always go back to the infrastructure, but let's just cut off your money completely.
Admiral, thank you. Great to see you, as always.
Good to see you, Laura.
And Democrats must be thrilled that Vance's peace talks for now are canceled, because they've spent weeks, seemingly, it sounds like it, feel like it, rooting for Iran.
This is a president who always said America first. So no one's cheering on Iran. We're cheering against a president who's doing something that's illegal.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks for clearing that up. So when does cheering against a president in the middle of a military conflict not constitute cheering for America's enemies? Congressman Quigley isn't the only one. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy tweeted a one-word response to the news that an Iranian shadow fleet broke through the U.S. blockade. He wrote, "Awesome."
Twitter's become kind of a cesspool. I probably should give up on sarcasm on Twitter.
Do you regret the post? Are you planning on taking it down?
I mean, I guess I just have to be more careful about sarcasm on Twitter.
I'm embarrassed. He's from my home state of Connecticut. Yeah, well, it's sarcasm, right? Well, it turns out that new Iranian vessels coming through was pure Iranian propaganda. Here to discuss is Victor Davis Hanson, Hoover Institution senior fellow. Victor, extending the ceasefire, you know, the critics of the administration is saying, here we go again. We're just giving them more time. But Trump's, you know, crazy like a fox here, and he knows that, as the Admiral just said, we can move at any time we want.
Yeah, I don't think they think that they have three choices. They have, if they submit, they're going to be humiliated, so they don't want to do that, whoever's in charge. Or they can attack and send some missiles. If they do that, they're going to lose big time their infrastructure. Or I think the most viable, they think, is to drag this out and out. But Donald Trump still has 6 months before the midterms. I don't think they have more than 6 or 7 days until they're going to be broke, and we can even ramp that up. So all the cards are in our hands. The only thing they have for them, Laura, is they feel in this echo chamber of these rival cliques that are running the government, they feel the American left or the anti-war movement, when they hear what you just reported, that the U.S. Senator said it's awesome that their and that was false. Nobody got through, but he was echoing their propaganda. Or Tim Walz is over in Barcelona saying that this whole enterprise is fascistic. Or Tom Friedman says, well, he'd like Iran to lose, but not if it helps the Trump administration. They hear all that, and so they feel, they magnify that, and they think, well, you know what, the left will if we can hold out to the midterms, the left will win and cut off fundings, and we'll get out of this okay. So I thought it was always scurrilous to accuse someone of rooting for the enemy, but I'm just quoting them at their own speech. They are.
Well, okay, listen to this Democrat Congressman Adam Smith, and let's have the viewers give their own judge of this. Watch.
I would think it quite likely that Iran will not show up and negotiate, because what they've said about where negotiations are at has turned out to be a lot closer to the truth than anything coming out of the White House.
So you believe Iran over the White House?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I would put it exactly the way I just put it.
Well, the way he just put it indicates that you actually think they're credible after they've slaughtered Americans, our allies, endangered the whole region, and if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd be able to do this all day long.
Yeah, and more importantly, they lied. They had lied chronically. They said they had no nuclear enrichment, and then it was disclosed they had enough nuclear enrichment to make 11 bombs. Then they said they had no missile that could go further than 1,800 miles. They shot one at Diego Garcia, 2,500 miles. Everything they say is a lie, and so that's just ridiculous. And Jimmy Kimmel said the same thing. Rachel Maddow. That's a Democratic Party talking point, that you should believe the Iranians and not the U.S. government. And you know what? When Obama went into Libya and when Bill Clinton wanted to bomb Serbia, bridges, power plants, Obama wanted to bomb the communications, the port facilities, we all stood behind them. We might not have agreed, but we all stood behind them, even though it was a misadventure in Libya especially. But they can't do the same.
Good news for our military and good news for America is always bad news for them. That's why the left is in the pickle it's in. It's a terrible position to be in. Victor, you're a truth teller, my friend. Thank you so much. And coming up, this is one of my favorite segments of the night. The group that loves to brand conservatives as haters, exposed. A new indictment just dropped. Who got indicted? We'll tell you about it. U.S. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is here. First, it was the fraudulent Minnesota Leering centers. Then it was the phony hospice operations in California. And now a new fraud being exposed. The DOJ dropped an indictment late today against one of the left's most cherished so-called anti-discrimination watchdogs. Wire fraud, bank fraud, and big trouble. The Southern Poverty Law Center, long treated as the gold standard by academics, corporate America, liberal politicians, of course the media, is now facing serious criminal charges for the way it solicited, spent, and banked donor money to supposedly advance their mission of exposing and dismantling extremist groups.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
Whoops. Well, the DOJ claims that the SPLC set up financial channels that donors were led to believe supported the anti-discrimination work, but in fact were used in some cases for illicit purposes. Over the years, when the SPLC held itself out to be noble and nonpartisan, standing bravely against extremism, it published lists that shaped hiring decisions, banking relationships, and even some law enforcement priorities. And yes, I know this firsthand. Back in 2008, when I hosted a nationally syndicated radio show, it labeled me, I love this headline, right-wing radio's high priestess of hate. I took it as a great compliment, of course. That wasn't because I endorsed violence or extremism, but because I'm a proud conservative, especially on the issue of immigration. So they've always been the real haters, haters of strong border enforcement, traditional Christianity, of conservatives who are vocal and effective. Well, the chickens may finally be coming home to roost.
Between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. After SPLC paid members of these extremist groups It created work product that reported on these activities that the members participated in or contributed to. And to that end, it was doing the exact opposite of what it's told its donors it was doing. Not dismantling extremism, but funding it.
Here exclusively, Acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. Mr. Acting Attorney General, how did they get away with this for so long?
I mean, it's a great question. I said today during the press conference that we know that this investigation was opened during the Biden administration and then mysteriously closed. I really don't have any information about why it was closed. And then we started again last year, the FBI did, working with the U.S. Attorney in Alabama. And it's extraordinarily egregious. You just talked about it. But imagine a donor to the SPLC if they were told, by the way, we're going to give the money you're giving us to the Ku Klux Klan. Okay? Like, in some cases, over $1 million. I mean, it's incredible.
Now, they say they're no longer using these informants in this way and that it was necessary because they had all sorts of threats against the organization, firebombing threats and other acts of purported violence, and that's why they had to use these informants. And to that, you say?
Well, to that I say, for one, the indictment charges all the way through 2023. So I'm here to speak about what they're doing right now, but that indictment charges a long period of time through 2023. And second, and more importantly, there's no allegation or information in the indictment that suggests they shared that information with law enforcement. They have communicated.
They said they did.
Well, they have communicated when they so chose with law enforcement over the years. There's no information that we have that suggests that the money that they were paying to these informants and these members of these organizations, they then turned around and shared what they learned with law enforcement. To the contrary, or else we would have known from their own words that they had given this money to these guys, and we didn't know it.
What about Charlottesville and the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally? Were they involved in that?
Yes. So what we allege in the indictment and what the grand jury found is that one of the individuals that they paid was one of the folks who helped organize that terrible event. And so so imagine what we're talking about, Laura. We're talking about an organization that actively came out and just screamed it from the top of their lungs.
So just so people understand watching this, did these informants in some cases, given the evidence you've seen, actually initiate what would ultimately be these activities? And obviously Charlottesville ended with a tragedy.
Well, we know that they were part of those. They were part of it. Whether they were the leaders or the initiators, that'll come out, I think, eventually. But what we do know is that the very entities that this group was raising money to go against are the very entities that they were taking the money in and paying to these entities and these individuals associated with those groups.
What was the money used for?
Well, we don't know, because again, all we know is that they set up these fictitious bank accounts.
Fake names, like the Constitution Group or whatever it was called. Then they had one called Fox Photography.
Right, completely fictitious as far as the investigation has shown, and they were using it simply to funnel money to these individuals. The indictment talks about a situation where they paid an individual to steal documents from the organization and then return the documents, and then when somebody else took the hit for it, they paid that person too. To take the hit for that. And so this
But again, why were they doing this? Like this imperial wizard of the United Clans of America, that was one of the informants? So was that an agent of the U.S. government, effectively?
Look, all we know is that they were fundraising every day on their websites.
But they made the problem, to me, and I just read the indictment, they made the problem probably look worse than it was, with the informants kind of egging people on. To me, that's what it looks like. You'll find out more.
We'll find out more, but you're right. I mean, that's the point. Why did they want to raise so much money? They needed people to choose to give their hard-earned money to this 501c3 charity, and then they took that money and they diverted a big chunk of it, over $3 million, over 2014 to 2023, to the same individuals within the organizations they were against.
Why no individuals named in a criminal indictment? Why is it just the organization itself?
Well, I said very clearly today this investigation is ongoing. As these investigations go, when you're ready to charge a company, there's a lot of... It's important to do that. It's important to do that even if the investigation is continuing. And so that's what we did today, but the investigation is continuing.
Now, folks on the right want to know when we're going to see progress in investigations of Brennan, Comey, Clapper, and perhaps given what we learned about his desire to ignore the intel community in 2016 and 2017 on the Russia issue, Barack Obama. What can you say to people tonight about the progress of these investigations. People want indictments, and they want accountability for Crossfire Hurricane and the Russia investigation.
Sure. So what I can say is the same thing we've been saying all along. These investigations have to be done in secret. They cannot be done in the open, and not only because of grand jury secrecy, but it destroys the integrity of the investigation. We have great people working on all of these issues, really smart people, and we're going to continue to do that work, and when there's an appropriate time to talk about it, we will.
Yeah, I mean, people just feel like if the government can actually do this to a sitting, a candidate and then undermine his presidency, these people claim they're for democracy and protecting democracy.
It shakes the heart of our democracy to understand what happened. And I never will be critical of anybody saying we need to hear more, we need something quicker, because it's true. If these allegations, what we've heard, is
10 years
very
ago.
troubling. And it's a long time ago. It's a long time ago.
People are like, move on. I don't see how you can move on from this.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, we have late today, the SPLC came out, in defending itself, saying essentially this is all political. This is a political move on the part of your Justice Department to try to shut down their organization, which has been in their view, obviously a very effective organization against hate and extremism. To that, you say?
To that I say the indictment's public. Everybody can read it, whether you're for them, against them, whether you've donated money to them, whether you've been critical of them. That indictment is free for everybody to read. And if the takeaway is that that's political, I mean, I think the opposite is true.
You want this job, this Attorney General job?
I love what I'm doing. I love every day that I come to work. Serving this administration is the highlight of my life and will continue to be so.
I knew you wouldn't answer, but I said he can't joke anymore because now he's the acting Attorney General. Good to see you, sir. Thank you very much for coming in. All right, and can you get those indictments out a little earlier in the afternoon next time so I can read it faster? All right, thank you very much. And coming up, we're monitoring the results in Virginia. Will Democrats get control of Congress? And if they do, it's going to be impeachment number 3, my friends. We'll bring it to you. All right, we have a Fox News alert. We're awaiting results in Virginia on a measure that could determine who gets control of Congress. Now, the question on the ballot, in part, should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts, get this, to restore fairness in the upcoming elections? You can't make this up. Now, who doesn't want fair elections? Got to vote yes. Well, it's a complete power grab. If the measure passes, Virginia, of course, will be, Democrats will be the ones in charge of changing the districts back to the way it was. That could result in a 10-to-1 advantage for them, up from their current 6-to-5. And tonight we're digging into how this vote could measure the mood of the country. Abigail Spanberger, the new governor, has plummeting poll numbers, but Virginia is also a big military state. And we have to ask how the war, gas prices might be a factor tonight as well. So here to restore fairness on the Ingram angle, Mary Catherine Ham, Outkick columnist, and Jason Chaffetz, former Utah congressman, both Fox News contributors. All right, Mary Catherine, you got to hand it to the Democrats, right? This ballot initiative is sneaky, it's sleazy, and the Democrats win heads, tails, they win here.
Yeah,
ultimately.
It's audacious. It is neither fair nor temporary. I know that won't surprise you. This is actually what they did was they got together and they did a snap election for a constitutional amendment. As you know, the bar is supposed to be really high for a constitutional amendment because it's important. You're supposed to let everybody know exactly what you're doing. They're like, no, we'll get to that later. We'll draw the maps at some point. We'll let you know what they are. And they do this, sort of on the cheap election, and then people have to go on a surprise in a midterm year.
Votes are coming in right here. It's so far 46-53 no, and that would be great news, but you know what happens.
Well,
the votes come in late, and they're always from the most liberal. They're from Richmond. They're from Northern Virginia. They're from, outside toward Charlottesville. That's, to me, that's what always
happens. And by the way, this move that Spanberger specifically said on the trail she would not do, and she called it a detriment to our democracy, subverts the vote of 2/3 of Virginians in 2020 to say we'd like a bipartisan committee. They've had their say. We've all said what we would like, and Democrats are like, nah, we're going to do something different.
Jason, you get the sense here that if Democrats were really confident about their ideas, confident about their vision for the future, they wouldn't need to do this stuff. But, man, they're scrambling.
Yeah, temporarily restoring fairness. That makes a lot of sense to do that all at once. But remember, their bigger game is they want to expand the Supreme Court. They want to fundamentally change everything up and down the ballot in what we're doing, and that balance of power. It is a total power grab. They want to do much more with this. If they can get away with this, and trying to overuse the word fairness, look out, because this country's in a world of hurt if the Democrats can get away with something like this.
Mary Catherine, and meanwhile, we have a lot of pressure here at home the president is under because of the numbers on this Iran war. They're not good. The Republicans are still with him for the most part, but the American people are just, they're seeing costs. I mean, I know they don't like the mullahs. They don't want Iran to have nukes. But I think the costs of everything is obviously up. How important is this going to be as we move toward the midterms?
I mean, that is first and foremost in people's minds. And I do think that the president could be more explicit about explaining, okay, this is why this is so important for the world order, for us to do what we're doing in Iran, right? But you have to make that argument to people. And they will also benefit, obviously, if gas prices tick down, which they could do quite quickly if things change throughout the world economy due to various moves.
Another issue, Jason, Axios is reporting that President Trump has been telling people that Florida Governor DeSantis is, quote, begging for a White House job. I don't know who's talking to Axios. There's like leaks in this administration, which really bugs me, actually, about this particular thing. DeSantis answered that he's 100% not interested in the AG job, worst job in Washington, but he would be interested in War Secretary or Supreme Court, which apparently they say would be his dream job. The source noted the governor's relationship with Justice Thomas. I can tell you this, he's not retiring, so give that idea up. Jason, I don't need to read the whole thing. Do you see this as a viable option as being, for DeSantis, he's one of the smarter guys out there, credible record in Florida, to be tapped for some future position?
Perhaps. Look, he's one of the most popular and successful governors that we have in this country. And you've seen pictures of Ron DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, with Donald Trump there at the golf club most recently. There's a future for Ron DeSantis. What it is, I don't believe that Axios report. I'm with you, Laura, on that. I think that's kind of absurd.
CT's not going anywhere.
There is a big, bright future for him. Yeah,
I mean,
he's not going anywhere. I believe him. If he says he doesn't want to be the Attorney General, then he probably doesn't want to be the Attorney General. So,
it's not a fun job. Sorry, Scott Todd, but it's not a fun job. It's a cool job. It's an important job, but it is might not be the most fun. Mary Catherine, Jason, both of you, thanks so much. And we're continuing to watch that Virginia vote. Coming up, anti-billionaire progressives, the ones flying their private jets, embracing billionaire Tom Steyer. You cannot make it up. We'll report on it next.
You have a small number of billionaires pouring hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into Donald Trump. Billionaires are also there for Harris. Our long-term goal is to get big money out of the political process.
Oh, the left hates billionaires, says Bernie Sanders. Well, the godfather of progressives says it all the time. Oh, the billionaires this, the billionaires that. His advocacy group, Our Revolution, tweeted several times about how billionaires shouldn't even exist. Well, this week, something amazing happened. Our Revolution found a billionaire they like so much that they endorsed him in the California governor's race, Tom Steyer. He's the founder of a hedge fund that made him a huge billionaire. We told you about him last week. He's a famous greeniac. When it comes to the border, he basically makes Newsom look like Tom Homan. Our Revolution said Steyer has put his money where his mouth is on climate change and is running on taxing the wealthy, single-payer health care, and getting big money out of politics after he spends a lot of money. Yeah, Tom Steyer hates money in politics, unless it's his own. He's currently running for office. It's the most expensive campaign in the country, spending $120 million to become governor. Steve Hilton is the top Republican running in that race. Steve, look, conservatives, we think you should be able to spend your money any way you want, right? We don't care. I mean, that's life. You got the money, you spend it. Trump spent a lot of his own money the first time around. But the Democrats say they don't like billionaires.
I know. It's incredible. It really is hilarious. And Tom Steyer By the way, the numbers ticked up. As of this morning, it's 130 million. I think we're going to see maybe that double in the next couple of weeks as he's trying to buy every vote he can. What's hilarious about Tom Steyer is that he's running around saying because he's a billionaire, he can't be bought. And yet, all he's been doing in this campaign is selling himself to all these far-left groups, to the unions, to get their endorsement. And so that's why he's pandering to the far left constantly, because he's selling himself for their support. The other point he constantly makes is how he's going to close tax loopholes, except for himself. We all have to publish our tax returns. When they were published, it turned out Tom Steyer, who's got more money than all the rest of the candidates put together, is actually paying the lowest tax rate because he's stashing his cash in the Cayman Islands, in Bermuda, offshore trusts, all this, all the things he rails against. It's unbelievable.
Well, Steve, Politico obtained a poll by Gude Luna's strategy, and it had you at the top of the pack with 20%. Steyer and Becerra surged up just past the other Republican in the race. They're tied at 15. Of course, Chad Bianco and you have been basically 1 and 2, you being 1, he being 2. So Becerra went up 11 points since the last poll was taken earlier this month. And a lot of Democrats are saying, look, he could be our guy if Steyer, people just can't stomach him.
Exactly. Well, this is what's happened since Swalwell collapsed into sleaze and scandal, is it seems that Becerra is rising up as the candidate of the machine, the Democrat establishment. Just today, the Speaker of the Assembly endorsed him, and they're all very excited because he's exactly what they love, a career politician, a puppet who will do their bidding. The Pelosi machine, the unions, and so on. Remember, Becerra was Biden's calamitous health secretary who thought it was a great idea to put masks on 2-year-olds and everything else that we saw from the Biden people in the pandemic. So this guy's worse than Newsom. They're all, I mean, actually, that's the unbelievable thing. These Democrats, if you think it's bad under Newsom, wait till you see the next one if we get one of these Democrats. We have to have change in California. That's why it's good news that I'm leading. The lead seems to be growing, especially since the president's endorsement the other week, which I'm enormously honored by. And I think we can do it because everything's such a disaster in California. It really is so far beyond time for change. I think we're going to get it this year.
Steve, how many days a week are you on the road constantly? You know, I was just in California for 8 days, yes, and I traveled 900 miles in 8 days, up and back, north, south. But you're everywhere.
Yeah, look, it's a big state, but it's an honor to do this. And the fact that we've got the support of so many people, we're leading on fundraising, massive small dollar support, we're doing town halls everywhere, hundreds of people coming out. There's real energy here. Another big thing, everyone should remember, whatever happens with the Save America Act, we've got voter ID on the ballot in November. That's going to help us get a big Republican vote.
That is huge. Steve, thank you very much. Good luck out there, my friend. And a Chinese national arrested at JFK Airport after allegedly taking photos of a U.S. military aircraft. His name, Tianrui Liang. According to the FBI, a witness reported seeing a male holding a camera with a telescopic lens near an Air Force base in Nebraska. I wouldn't call that normal tourist behavior. But this isn't a one-off. Just a few months ago, former Navy sailor Jin Chao Wei was sentenced to almost 17 years for providing sensitive military intel to Chinese operatives. And what about Yonsei Chen and Lirian Lai? They were both accused of secretly working for China's intel service and allegedly trying to find, persuade, or pressure U.S. Navy personnel to potentially act as spies. Here to weigh in, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. Josh, excuse me, Senator. This is the tip of the iceberg, is it not?
100%. No, it is 100% the tip of the iceberg. And it's another reminder, Laura, that this nation is not our friend. China is our adversary. They are our opponent. In many ways, they are our enemy, and they are very active. They've been recruiting spies onto our campuses for years. They tried to stand up all of those Confucius institutes. Those are just front groups. We know now they're trying to buy land all around our military bases. Laura, why should any Chinese corporation or foreign national be able to own land in America around our military bases? Heck, why should they own any farmland in the United States of America? Anything. America ought to be owned by Americans, and I think this is a good time to remember that.
Well, look, Trump has brought in an enormous amount of foreign investment in the United States, but foreign investment versus Chinese investment, that's a totally different deal. According to this affidavit, by the way, Liang told the investigators that he used a plane spotter website to identify photography locations. He said the images were for his personal collection. Senator, this all sounds just ridiculous. But I think back to the point, just to get to the core of this, is we have, what, 500,000 Chinese students in the United States. You know, they're probably all not spies, but it begs the question, why? And number two, why are they allowed to buy our food companies? Why are they allowed to buy so much commercial real estate, residential real estate, near sensitive areas? We don't have reciprocal rights in China to do any such thing.
No, and they shouldn't have those rights, period. I mean, these foreign corporations, these, to be specific, Chinese-based corporations and Chinese nationals who are not U.S. citizens, they're not green card holders, they don't want to be citizens, they want to come over here, they want access to our economy, to our sensitive information, they want to buy up our land, they want to buy up our real estate. No, we should be saying no, absolutely not, particularly land that is around our military bases. And to your point a second ago, who puts shots of military bases up on their walls as art? I mean, that's ridiculous. What a ridiculous statement on the part of that individual. It just shows you that China has a long-term, long-range campaign here that they're waging in every sector. They're trying to get informants, spies, and others. We just need to be alert to that, and we need to say we're going to protect this country, we're going to protect our economy, we're going to protect our land in the United States of America.
And I certainly hope the court, with the birthright citizenship issue, also does the right thing, not required by the Constitution. And this, you know, I guess we're going to need a constitutional amendment if they don't do the right thing here. But, Senator, thank you very much. And coming up, Kamala Harris has a new mantra. You're going to want to hear this one. Jimmy Fallon has it, and a lot more next. This is a Fox News alert. We're still watching the results of the Virginia redistricting measure coming in. Right now it's 53. Sounds good, though, to 46. But Loudoun County, Prince William County, Arlington County, otherwise known as the People's Republic of Arlington, and, of course, Fairfax County. They're wildly for the yes side and not for the no side. So, but it's, yeah, it's narrowing, right? Yeah, so it's 47-52 now. Watch, those numbers are going to continue to narrow. So I don't sound very helpful, do I? But I know Virginia really well. All right, but now it's time for WTF, What the Fela, with Jimmy Fallon, host of Fox News Saturday Night. All right, Jimbo, I know you're hosting your own show from the White House Correspondents' Dinner this weekend. Very exciting. Jake Tapper will be there, and he's already picked out an outfit, apparently. Wow.
I like the pocket square.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, so this is a special freedom of the press and freedom of speech pocket square. Saturday night's the White House Correspondents' Dinner. There are a bunch of us that are going to be wearing these because there might be some guests there that are unfamiliar.
This is the first time that the president is going to be attending, right?
Now that you say so, yes.
Is that supposed to be funny? Is that supposed to be funny?
What I love about that bit is it wasn't staged at all. I mean, come on, man. You know, listen. What is with all the flair in the Democratic Party? The hankies, the pins. They show up to events now looking like a waitress at TGI Fridays. There's too much flair. Okay, the bad news, there just is. The bad news for Tapper is no one takes him seriously anymore. The good news is he just won a Rosie O'Donnell lookalike contest. So he's got that in his back pocket, Laura.
Well, I just, you know, Pete Hegseth has that little red, white, and blue sliver that you see, so that's kind of flair. But, you know, I just like pulling I don't know. I find it silly, but whatever. Yeah, nobody. Yeah, Jake. Nobody believes in free speech except you. Okay.
Yeah,
Tell that to conservatives that have been shut out and Facebook and debanked and everything else over the last 20 years.
Where were they when Biden was pressuring social media companies? But anyway, the whole pull out the hanky thing, the only magician I'm impressed with at CBS is the one who made Colbert's show disappear next month. That's the guy.
All right. Well, Jimmy, Kamala's back in the spotlight, and she has a new accent.
Their mantra is, I'm going to get mine. I think it's okay for us to be a bit transactional, too. trying to say I'm going to get mine also. And so don't count on me to be a voter and be the backbone of the Democratic Party.
The problem with Kamala,
get mine.
Exactly. The problem with Kamala is she talks like she already got hers. You know what I'm saying? She like, seriously, we used to play a game on Fox News Saturday night, Laura. It was called Wine or Pills. I would play a clip like that and make the studio audience guess if she was on wine or pills. The reason we stopped playing is they would always guess both. Every single time. They're like, no way, that's just one. She's a mess. But my big question tonight, Laura, is why are you on TV? We're a week from the NFL draft. I would think with that arm of yours, you'd be in Pittsburgh right now. There it is. Let's take a look at this bad boy right here.
Okay.
Let me see this. Going long. There goes it. Look at a deep bomb from Ingram right there. Listen to me. I'm telling you. Go ahead. That is a viral video. Everyone is blown away by you. The internet is raving. My only sports advice is don't let Mom Donnie hug your mascot, and you'll have a great career.
Well, people like got to do more Instagram videos. And so my kids just give me ideas. And I was really running drills with them. We were doing that. Other people do other normal things on a Saturday. That's what we were doing Saturday night. Jimmy, great to see you, my friend. That's it for us tonight. Jesse is next.
Welcome to Jesse Waters Prime Time tonight.
Breaking tonight, President Trump says he is extending the ceasefire with Iran. He made the decision based on the fact that Iran's government is seriously fractured.
A power struggle, peace talks, and the blockade.
For those of us who grew up in the 80s, did you ever imagine you would be more likely to believe the Ayatollah than the President of the United States?
Democrats duped by a big, fat, juicy Iranian hoax.
I mean, I guess I just have to be more careful about sarcasm on Twitter.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a storm in our nation. There is darkness and wind. People are getting hurt.
Happy TDS Tuesday. Plus,
I'm kind of psychic. My breasts can always tell when it's gonna rain.
Fox News alert, Bridge and Power Plant Day could now be any day of the week. A fierce power struggle breaking out in Iran. And President Trump showing a lot of patience. 47 says U.S. airstrikes have seriously fractured the regime. So Pakistan asked us to hold off on B&P Day until Iran can get it together. Tonight, there could be a coup. No one knows who's calling the shots. Vance, Witkoff, and Kushner were supposed to leave for Islamabad, but they never took off because the Iranian delegation never took off, which is suspicious because this morning, Trump said the gay Ayatollah authorized the deal.
They just got the okay to go forward, which I knew they were going to do anyway. I mean, I don't think they had a choice. They have to negotiate. And, the one thing I'll say is this. Iran can get themselves on a very good footing if they make a deal. They can make themselves into a strong nation again, a wonderful nation again. They have incredible people. But they seem to be, bloodthirsty.
So the gay Ayatollah told his ministers wheels up, but the military said not so fast. We're basically looking at another Iranian hostage crisis. This time, they've taken themselves hostage, and therefore the negotiations. The IRGC won't agree to sign over the Strait and the uranium, and they're the only votes that matter because they're the ones with the guns. The generals are demanding Trump lift the blockade as a precondition for more peace talks. They want to play an economic game of chicken.
Iran sees this as a game of endurance. They believe that time is on their side and that ultimately the domestic pressure when it comes to energy markets and the stock market will force President Trump to make a deal that's in their favor. That is not the truth. That is not the reality. The president and his counterparts in Israel have the ability to continue this operation for months if they need to.
It's the Iranians up against the clock. The blockade's already cost them over $1 billion. Checks are bouncing, and their economy's in a death spiral and facing a Great Depression. Scott Bessent says, quote, in a matter of days, Carg Island storage will be full, and the fragile Iranian oil wells will be shut in. The blockades turned around 28 ships sailing to or from Iranian ports, most of them oil tankers. And we took custody of a runner sailing in from China with missile ingredients.
We caught a ship yesterday that had some things on it which wasn't very nice, a gift from China perhaps, I don't know. But I was a little surprised, but because I have a very good relationship and I thought I had an understanding with President Xi, but that's all right. That's the way war goes, right?
And it just got worse for the enemy. The Navy boarded another vessel from their shadow fleet, the Tiffany. How cute. A sanctioned tanker carrying 2 million barrels of Iranian crude sailing to Shanghai. No bueno. The blockade's ripple effect is hitting Beijing. Choke points are getting squeezed from the Gulf to the Strait of Malacca. It just so happens that we conducted joint naval exercises with the Japanese in the South China Sea. And the Army just finished up joint live fire training with the Philippines. Xi's losing friends fast. The president putting pressure on the Middle Kingdom to make its proxy give up the dust. Vance isn't flying halfway across the world to Pakistan for nothing.
This could have a salutary ending. What are the chances of that? I think probably 2 in 3 right now, 65%. They're not sending the vice president over there to walk away again. They really think there'll be a deal. I think there's a 2 in 3 chance we get to it.
And if you watched primetime last night, General Petraeus also seemed optimistic about a deal. He just didn't think it'd happen today. And he was right. Our patience may be running thin, but our stockpile isn't.
It's not my choice, but it will also hurt them. It'll hurt them militarily. They use the bridges for their weapons, for their missile movements. You know, they're trying to move the missiles because we've obliterated most of their missiles, and they're trying to move their missiles around, even during the ceasefire, which I think was a good thing because we're totally loaded up. We have so much ammo. We have so much of everything that we've, like, much more powerful than it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. So we've used this to restock, and they probably have done a little bit of restocking.
Over the last 24 hours, we're seeing heavy Air Force activity, major resupplies coming in from American bases in Europe. Plus, the USS Gerald Ford just re-entered the Red Sea. And by Saturday, we'll have all 3 carrier strike groups, the Ford, Lincoln, and Bush, in theater. We might unwrap some new toys. The Marines just unveiled a new shore-to-shore landing ship designed to deliver 800 tons of troops, weapons, supplies directly to beachheads. Getting its last coat of paint is the lead ship, the USS McClung, named after a Marine major who was killed in combat in Iraq, the first female graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy to be killed in action. Our anti-sub aircraft, the P-8 Poseidon, has been surveilling the strait from the skies, and they're working overtime. So KC-135 Stratotankers are refueling them midair. We're locked and loaded. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper went to Israel last week, where he approved joint plans for a brand new target bank, which include energy and infrastructure and whatever missile launchers the regime dug out of the rubble. The ceasefire gave us time not only to resupply and acquire new targets, but a fresh batch of human intelligence came in. Any leader who poked his head out in the last 2 weeks is a goner. The alliance has spies all up and down Iran. So the next round of airstrikes will be devastating if it happens. Hard to know exactly what's happening inside the ranks, but sources tell Primetime the military sidelined the mullahs and are keeping the gay Ayatollah alive as a figurehead while they assert control over negotiations. They basically have a gun to the head of the negotiators, and now everyone's afraid of getting killed, not just by the Americans, but by the Iranian military. It appears that there's already been somewhat of a soft military coup, and as the blockade keeps breaking the country's bank, there could be a coup within the military. The generals are having to decide the best way to hold on to power. Is it in a post-deal Iran, or is it in a state of constant warfare? No idea. This would be like if the enemy took out Trump, Vance, and the entire cabinet in 40 seconds, knocked out our entire military, plus all of our defense contractors, and had North America surrounded with carriers. And then Speaker Mike Johnson was supposed to fly overseas for peace talks, and a bunch of 2-star generals pulled out a gun and said, "Mike, you're not going anywhere." For the first time in a long time, the president doesn't have a deadline. It's unusual for him, which tells me he's going to watch it unfold, feel it out, and a deal or an attack could happen at any minute. Jim Hansen's a former U.S. Army Special Forces and Chief Strategist for the Middle East Forum. Jim, what do you think's going on today in Tehran?
I think they are scrambling. And anybody who says this fracture between the religious leadership and the military and their civilian political leadership is a bad thing doesn't understand how to break a tyrannical regime. Of course, we want them arguing with each other. And obviously, I think the military will come out on top. As you said, they do have the guns. But in the end, they don't have much in the way of weapons left. And anytime they poke any of those weapons out of their holes, we destroy them. So they've got a very short window before they run out of money. They run out of the ability to pump oil. They already can't sell it. And there's not any money coming in to run the regime. Anybody who thinks they're ahead in this game is not paying attention.
So is it more of a negotiating tactic, or is it them trying to consolidate power as they lead negotiations going forward?
They want the world and anybody else to think that they are ahead. That's why you hear them say things, oh, 26 ships broke the blockade. Well, no, 26 ships got turned back, and the 27th got a free engine room redecoration courtesy of a USS Destroyer's 5-inch gun, free ventilation. That's not how you win. Next, we take a tanker, and now we've got 2 million barrels of free oil. They don't have any way to come out ahead in the blockade game. They're wrong if they can think they can wait President Trump out. And if he has to start breaking some more of their stuff to emphasize the point, we have plenty of ways to do that. They have nothing but maybe an opportunity to attack a ship trying to transit the strait.
And they don't have a lot of time left. You heard Bessent say these oil wells, they're going to fill up and they're going to have to shuttle production soon. Do you think the president waits and sees how things unfold inside Tehran, or do you think he needs to give them a little nudge?
Yeah, here's the thing. Anything the president blows up right now causes damage for the Iranian people. And he's got the opportunity. There was a point there where I guess the defeat mongers thought they were going to convince the world that President Trump had to stop this because of the pressure. We can absorb some short-term oil price jumps, and the political pressure at home is not going to change President Trump's calculation. He can beat them at this game. The fewer things he blows up from here going forward, the better. But they shouldn't think for a second he will not give them an object lesson in how to make the rubble bounce.
And the United States and Israel have been accumulating so much intelligence over the last 2 weeks that whatever fighting does break out will end pretty quickly. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, we've got all of their people identified. If we wanted to, we could take out another layer of their leadership again. But we need somebody to go ahead and quasi-surrender, whatever this ends up being. So if they want to try and, they can't fight in the normal use of that word. They can cause damage. They can be a terrorist state breaking other people's things, but they can't take us on force. And if they want to go ahead and let the IRGC take a run at being the heads of a military, state as opposed to a theocracy, that will be a very short-lived event.
Okay, Jim, always insightful. Thank you. Cliff Mays, the founder and president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Is there anything you want to jump in and say after listening?
Look, I rarely disagree with Jim Hansen. I think the last time was 1957. Look, I would add this. Understand, there's two things to understand. One is there was never really any question about who had the guns and who would rule. There are only two power centers, have always been in this regime. One is the clerisy, the theocrats. That really meant Ayatollah Khomeini, the revolutionary leader. He was venerated. He killed thousands, but a lot of people venerated him. After 1989, it's been Khamenei. He had respect. The IRGC is not the regular military. It serves the supreme leader, the exalted one. I'm translating that a little better.
At this, but the political guys, they're handmaidens. They've always been handmaidens. They don't wear turbans and they don't have guns. That means they do what they're told at the end of the day. So there was never any question. This is kind of clarifying because now we see the IRGC is in control. Mujtaba, the son of Khamenei, he's theoretically the supreme leader. I don't know that he's conscious, much less making any decisions. Last thing I'll say that I think is important is to understand their strategy. Their strategy was articulated best by Sheikh Khalid Mohammed. You'll remember who he was. He was the architect of the 9/11 attacks. In Gitmo, in Guantanamo, he was interrogated, and he said, "We're going to win." And his interrogator said, "How do you think you can win against the U.S., against the superpower? How do you think that's possible?" He said, "Because we know you guys, and you guys will always quit." I think President Trump will not quit. That's my hope, and I have confidence that's true. I think he understands he doesn't want to be what Khalid Sheikh Mohammed thinks Americans are.
And the president said he has time on his side, and how much time we'll see, but the Iranians are up against it. And it seems like they don't know that, or they know it, and they're willing to survive with no money, underground, and possibly no electricity. Is that... Is that rational, or is this just the kind of people we're dealing with?
It's the kind of people we're dealing with. They are not rational actors. Had they been rational actors after the 12-day war of last June, they would have said, whoa, we took a thrashing. We don't want to go through that again. Instead, they said, whoa, how fast can we build thousands of missiles, thousands of drones, fast boats to attack, take over the Strait of Hormuz? How do we come back? They're going to act very resolute. They're talking about now, according to the Pakistani ambassador, giving a proposal for new peace talks. My guess is there will be very few concessions in it. They will say, we can tough it out. We'll see if Americans can last for 3 months, if that's what it takes, paying $4.25 a gallon for gasoline. Californians have been paying that for a long time and haven't complained, but maybe Californians are tougher than the rest of us. I don't know. What we've got now is economic fury. Following epic fury, economic fury is the economic strangulation of the regime. Once they go a few weeks without being able to pay the IRGC, the cops, the Basij, the bureaucrats and others, well, then we're going to see what happens. Regime collapse would be a very good outcome, and then that could be followed sooner, hopefully, maybe later, by some kind of serious regime change. But economic strangulation makes a lot of sense.
So you think the economic strangulation strategy could force regime collapse? Could you also see one of these other generals take a shot at the leader, because whoever's running the IRGC is kind of leading the country into bankruptcy, maybe even the Stone Age?
That could absolutely happen when you have what we have. The smart thinking right now is that General Ahmad Vahidi, that he's the bull goose right now. That doesn't mean there's not some colonel thinking this guy is going to lead us down a very bad path. But, you know, it's not so easy to have a real coup in this kind of situation. But you certainly can't rule that sort of thing out. But I think for now, IRGC, Vahidi seem to be in control, and they will try to tough it out. They'll say this doesn't hurt us. How religious they are, I don't know. They have a lot to lose. But, you know, they're fighting what they call a jihad. That jihad has been going on from this regime for 47 years. Death to America has been their policy, and all they've been trying to do is figure out a way to achieve that. And the way to achieve that is nuclear weapons, missiles that can deliver them, and then conventional weapons that would keep us from doing anything about it. All the people who have said this was not a necessary war, maybe they weren't smart enough, but a lot of them were. They knew they would get to a point where they said, well, yesterday wasn't necessary, today it's impossible, so we'll just have to make concessions. Look at what a lot of our friends in Europe are doing right now. They're making concessions to our enemies.
Not good. Well, we'll see what the president decides to do, and whatever happens in Iran, it's very dramatic. Thanks so much, Cliff. Did Democrats sabotage the peace talks? Right back. President Trump's two-front war is expanding. We have a ceasefire with Iran, but we're still being fragged on the home front. Iranian propaganda has infiltrated the Senate. The regime boasted that 26 of their ships busted through our blockade. And Democrat Senator Chris Murphy bought it. He posted, "Awesome. What an idiot. The whole thing's a hoax."
So, Trey, that was just Iranian propaganda, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now the senator says, it was just a joke.
Do you regret the post? Are you planning on taking it down, or are you going to keep it out?
I mean, I guess I just have to be more careful about sarcasm on Twitter.
Murphy's been siding with the mullahs for years. Back in 2020, he was caught secretly meeting with Iranian leaders behind Trump's back, which is probably a violation of the Logan Act. Lock him. Then 2 years later, he tried getting them off the terror list.
Would you take the Iran's Revolutionary Guard off the terror list in order to get a deal?
Yes.
Again, what an idiot. 47's at war with terrorists. Democrats are at war with him. And it comes straight from the top.
The Trump administration is barely treading water, caught in the riptide of its own incompetence. And Trump says everything is, quote, perfect, unquote. What planet is he on?
This is the Schumer strategy. Position Democrats so they win politically if Trump loses the war.
We're cheering against a president who's doing something that's illegal. It's costly. We've already lost service members. It's wreaking havoc on our economy. It threatens us in the homeland with terrorist attacks. So this isn't, I think it's patriotic to cheer for peace and to cheer for common sense and to cheer for diplomacy.
The media can't decide what to do. Just kidding. They hope we lose, too. First, they said we had no plan. Then, after we demolished their military, they said, oh, yeah? Now Iran has the upper hand.
Iran has more cards than the Trump administration was ever willing to admit. And we are the world's greatest military power.
So, to Democrats, Trump says we're winning, we must be losing. So when the gay Ayatollah speaks, he speaks the truth.
This is all very, especially for those of us who grew up in the 80s. Did you ever imagine you would be more likely to believe the Ayatollah than the President of the United States?
The United States annihilated the Iranians so badly, they can't even get on a plane to surrender because they can't decide who gets to be on the plane. It took Obama 2 years to cut a nuke deal with these people. And they still have enough uranium to build 10 nukes. Trump's been at this deal for 2 weeks. And the media is mad we haven't won fast enough.
It appears the president is the one who is more desperate in this moment. Do you not agree?
Well, let's look back. Barack Obama engaged in a 7-month conflict in Libya that resulted in a civil...
We don't need to go back to Barack Obama.
No, we
can
do.
Stick, no,
we do.
Excuse me, Katie. No, we don't.
Excuse me, Katie. Yes, we do.
I want to live in the moment, and I don't want to do a 10-minute detour for President Obama.
It's not a detour. It's not a detour. It's a relevant fact.
So far, the mission's been quick, decisive, and extremely lethal. We don't know what's going to happen next. Nobody does. But Democrats can't even give the commander-in-chief some space to win the peace. Maybe they want to rush him into a bad deal so they can say, see, it's no better than Barack's. But the president doesn't seem like he's under any pressure.
We can't let traitors like Schumer put pressure on you where they say, we want out. Think how bad that is. I'm negotiating with these people, and they're telling us, we have to get out now, we have to get out now, we have to get now. You know, I watch this low IQ guy, Hakeem Jeffries. He's a totally low IQ person, and he's always ranting and raving, oh, this war is so terrible, terrible. They shouldn't be saying that when we're in the midst of a negotiation, because it does hurt us somewhat. It gives the other side some hope, and I don't want them to have hope.
Democrats don't have to love the president or even love the war, but the least they can do is love the country enough to let us finish off the enemy on America's terms. We're talking about keeping nukes out of the hands of terrorists. It's a lot bigger than politics.
He doesn't care about the political consequence. He doesn't care about what he knows the fake news media will write. He does what he truly feels is in the best interest of our country.
Kayleigh McEnany is a former White House press secretary and host of Saturday in America. So the president, Kayleigh, said a lot of the talk from the left is giving the Iranians hope. You think that's true?
I think it's absolutely true. I mean, if I wake up and I'm the new Ayatollah and I look
and there's this fruitcake of a senator from Connecticut who says, awesome, 26 ships busted through the blockade. I think my propaganda is on repeat. And that's what's happening with the left. It's appalling. And, you know, as I look at what they're tweeting, what they're saying, what the media is saying, I think about President Trump, who had the courage to take necessary and bold action. And I'm not just talking about Iran. I'm talking about Maduro in handcuffs. I'm talking about Soleimani in the first term taken out. I'm talking about Cuba that he is looking at and trying to solve. He is literally trying to solve the world's problems, bring about world peace. And then you look, and the senator from Connecticut at 5:39 p.m. just pops off a tweet. Awesome. You know, that it's ridiculous. It's patently absurd. And we tried it their way, Jesse. And when we tried it their way, you got Putin invading Ukraine. You got Iran unleashing proxies to commit October 7th. And you got 13 service members who were killed at the Abbey Gate and Afghans hanging from airplanes. We tried it the senator from Connecticut's way. It didn't work. So let's try it with the deal maker.
You know, I could see this after 5 years, 7 years, or 2 years, maybe one. But, you know, you kind of got your foot on their neck. We've demolished their military. We've decapitated their leadership. And there is peace. It's a ceasefire. And there is diplomacy. We're trying to talk to them. We've been talking to them. Do the Democrats want us just to, like, take everything and go home? Right as we're about to try to lock in a deal where they hand over the uranium? What good would that be?
Apparently, that's what they want. And note this, Jesse, if that's what they want, and I think you're postulating exactly correct, they want us to just wrap up and go home, they're concerned about their political calculation, well, then what we know categorically is this. Politicians, Democrats and Republicans, politicians have been lying to you. Because for half a century, Jesse, half a century, every president has said Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. Every single one. Barack Obama said it. They can't have their proxies. They can't have a ballistic missiles program. They can't have this. And then someone comes and tries to do exactly what people have said for half a century, and he's bad, he's wrong, and will carry Iranian talking points. The politicians are lying to you. Give him space. That's the best thing you said, Jesse. Give him space to negotiate. He's the man who can get it done. Give him a little bit of time. Salient point you made. Barack Obama had 2 years. He's had 2 weeks. Give it a little bit of time.
How much time you want to give? Because it's a mess over there in Iran. I mean, like, they won't even let these guys fly over to Pakistan to meet. They're all scrambling. It's like a civil war.
Yeah. Yeah, give him the time because, look, we've done part one, Operation Epic Fury, but Scott Bessent, if you heard him last week in that press conference, Operation Economic Fury is coming next. That is putting a stranglehold on them. We've got to get this done. Absolutely. We've got to get it wrapped up. Everyone's rooting for peace. Everyone's rooting for an end to this. But you've got to give the man a chance to negotiate. And look, if this turns over into Democratic hands, God forbid, could you imagine, Jesse, we let this problem fester and you've got President, Commander-in-Chief AOC potentially on the other side? No, this was the time to do it. I've been in the rooms with him when he's negotiated with foreign leaders. You don't want to be there on a bad day with President Trump. This is the person who can get it done. Give him some time, but agree with you. We want to get it wrapped up. Give him the time.
All right. We'll see what happens. Kaylee, good to see you. We'll see you on the 5. 2 CIA officers killed in Mexico. What's going on? Fox News alert, polls are closed in Virginia on the ballot, a redistricting referendum. Voters are choosing whether Democrats can gerrymander the map and flip 4 Republican House seats. It's major. Race is tight. No at 50, yes 49. With about 78% of the vote, still too close to call. Another Fox News alert, 2 CIA officers are dead after a fiery crash in Mexico, just hours after a major narco raid. Senior national correspondent Kevin Cork is live with more. Kevin.
Evening, Jesse. A pair of embassy workers working apparently for the CIA dead following that fiery crash in Mexico over the weekend. In fact, in all, I should say, 5 people died in that accident. We're told that there were also a pair of investigators from Mexico. Now, this is all said to be related to that massive drug lab near Chihuahua. The Post first reporting that the car skidded off the road and then exploded as it fell down a massive ravine. Clearly, this was not some routine trip. They were coming back from this counter-narcotics operation. Now, the officers were apparently part of a quietly expanding CIA effort targeting drug trafficking in the region. In case you didn't know, yes, Mexico's President, Claudia Sheinbaum, not too happy about it. She's raising new questions tonight about whether that operation broke her nation's national security laws.
Until now, the information we have is that they were working together. Let's put it that way. Then all the investigation has to be done by the public prosecutor's office to see if the Constitution or the national security law was violated.
Now, Sheinbaum says she did speak with President Trump about the accident, adding that the two exchanged condolences, but really didn't get into much detail about the apparent operation. This comes amid escalating pressure on Mexico from the White House to crack down on cartels. And so tonight what we're really looking at, Jesse, is 2 countries fighting the very same drug war, but clearly not playing by necessarily the same rules. And that raises even more questions about just how far these operations will go and who ultimately is really in control. Very interesting dealings down in Mexico, Jesse.
That sounds about right. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah. You bet.
Fox News Alert, the FBI's announced an investigation into the string of dead or missing scientists with ties to America's top secrets. Christina Coleman with more. Christina.
Hi, Jesse. The House Oversight Committee is seeking information from the Departments of War and Energy, the FBI, and NASA on the disappearance and deaths of all these high-level scientists.
There's a coordinated investigation across various branches of the government. But yeah, a lot of the nuclear security, nuclear scientists are in DOE. So yes, of course we are looking into it. Too early to say about that. We haven't found anything alarming yet.
At least 11 scientists have disappeared or been killed since June of 2022, including Melissa Casillas. She had a security clearance at Los Alamos National Laboratory. She was reported missing in New Mexico last June. Astronomer and astrophysicist Carl Grohmeyer was found shot to death on the porch of his home about 45 minutes north of Los Angeles in February. A man was arrested and charged with his murder, but so far no word on a motive. And Jason Thomas, who led a chemical biology team, was found dead in a Massachusetts lake back in March after he had been missing for 3 months. The White House, the FBI, and Congress all looking for answers.
Hopefully with our bully pulpit, we can maybe bring attention to this and have anyone that knows of any information out there, have them contact Congress so we can help determine what's going on here and prevent this from happening in the future.
And 4 of the 11 scientists were prominent researchers from right here in L.A. County, including an aerospace engineer who vanished in the Angeles National Forest in June of last year, Jesse.
Very odd. Thanks, Christina. Happy TDS Tuesday, plus coolers with Ashley. That's next. Happy TDS Tuesday, Primetime's second favorite day of the week. We're raising awareness for one of the most infectious mind viruses sweeping the nation, Trump derangement syndrome. Cases are flaring, and we've got footage. Tonight, we kick things off with a TDS tune.
2, 3, 4, 1. We see that there's a wrong to be righted to. We know that we are stronger when united. 3. We exercise our right to assemble. 4. That's when the proud and mighty start to tremble. Just in case you're wondering. Just in case you're wondering. Just in case you're wondering. Hey, hey, look this way. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like.
Some patients sing, others scream.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a storm in our nation. There is darkness and wind. People are getting hurt. What we need is not from on high. We need foot soldiers of our democracy who in times of trial are willing to stand up.
If Spartacus is drafting, our lesbian granny's already enlisted. She's ready for World War III.
I've just had an emergency preparedness family meeting with my college student who's at the dorm about 20 miles away about what our plans are, making sure they've got their go bag ready to go just in case. I'm so exhausted parenting through this. I have no forgiveness to give.
We don't need your forgiveness, Gran. TDS isn't terminal. The fever's finally breaking. Jon Stewart just gave 47 major kudos.
I want to give credit where credit is due. We don't obviously often do this. The president did a solid over the weekend. President Trump signed an executive order in front of his fraternity brothers, fast-tracking the FDA process for novel psychedelic drug treatments for veterans suffering from all forms of PTSD and other psychiatric conditions, including addiction. But even when they dumb the down for him, it's a problem. I'm sorry. I'm falling into old habits. It's good. You did a good thing. I'm nitpicking. I apologize. A lot of the people are going to get the help they need.
Happy TDS Tuesday. Water's cooler. Let's bring in overnight anchor Ashley Strohmeyer. Ashley, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready for this one because I don't have an opponent.
You can't lose.
I cannot lose this one.
First up, do you have powers? Sonny Hostin thinks she does.
I don't know what to do about this. Apparently, 1 in 5 Americans believe they possess some level of psychic ability. I didn't pick this. According to a recent survey of 2,000 adults, there are 5 of us sitting here.
Sonny's a psychic, and the rest.
I said it would be Sonny.
There's
obvious.
one psychic and 4 psychos.
Are you psychic, Ashley?
So my family thinks I am. My husband in particular thinks that they would have burned me at the stake 100 years ago. And that's what he tells me all the time. My parents do. It's weird, though. It's weird because, like, I was talking to my parents one time. They were in Missouri. I was in New York. My dad was talking to my mom. He goes, "Do you want one of those?" And I go, "What, a candy apple?" She goes, "What?" She hung up on me. She was done with me for the rest of the day. She goes, "How did you know that?" I was like, "I don't know." Just things like just click up in my head.
Witch!
Go conjure people up, girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever.
Okay, but you never can foresee yourself losing the quiz.
No.
You never see that coming.
No, that's the one thing I'm not a witch about. I am not a psychic on sink or swim.
Okay, that's for sure. All right, next, the Brits just banned cigarettes. Listen, anyone born after 2008 isn't allowed to buy tobacco, ever. They won't sell it to you. And in 10 years, a 28-year-old won't be able to buy tobacco. See what's going on here? Next century, tobacco will be illegal in Great Britain. What is going on here? I'm mad and I don't even smoke.
I know. Okay, so as much as I love free will, like I think everybody should have free will and the right to do what they want, I hate cigarettes. So I'm kind of 50-50 split on this. I think people should be able to do what they want, but also I don't want to inhale your secondhand smoke.
No one's smoking it and blowing it in your face, Ashley.
No, but
it's all the way across the Atlantic.
No, but in this, they're like, oh yeah, the cigarettes are banned in playgrounds and schools. Well, duh, of course they are. Right. Like, but we're going to allow vaping outside of hospitals. How does that work? Like, I don't understand. And the pubs don't count either. So
you've never had a cigarette?
I had a puff of one. I hope my mom and dad aren't watching at like 37. And I was like, this is awful. It kind of reminds you of COVID. I don't know if you had COVID, but I always smelled cigarettes when I had COVID. It was like a cigarette smell. It was awful. It was terrible. Whoever made
when you got COVID, you lost your sense of smell.
No, the only thing I could smell was cigarettes. I'm not the only person. So I keep thinking whoever made COVID in that lab, they were smoking when they did it. So
the Chinese definitely had a few cigarettes while they were in that lab. That was a little bit of a dangerous lab. I'd smoke too. All right, men have a new type. Are you ready? Cougars.
I have dated guys who are my age because it was the right thing to do.
and it didn't work out, obviously.
Here, you'll be dating and even committing without ever knowing how old your partner is.
I'm not gonna lie, I like the mom part.
Do you have mommy issues?
If you're not as hot as my mom, I'm not gonna marry you.
Okay, so he likes mommies.
I would say they have mommy issues.
They have mommy
That's
issues.
all that means.
Do you think you'd ever, I know you're married.
Yeah.
Would you ever date a guy 10 years younger?
Oh my gosh, no.
No?
Absolutely not.
Even
I
if
don't
he
need
didn't-
another child. I'm sorry, I've got
Even
one.
if he didn't smoke cigarettes, Ashley?
It doesn't matter what I'd be smoking. I'm not dating anybody 10 years younger.
Why do you think some guys like cougars?
Well, I think it's because they're lazy. They don't want to work, and women are making more money these days. I mean, that's what I think. Or they have mommy issues.
Is it manly to date a woman who's older than you who makes more money than you?
I don't, no. Mm-mm. And if I knew that, like, say something happened with me and my husband, it's not going to happen, but if it did, I would be like, well, why did you date somebody that much older than you? I would think that was a flaw.
Okay. We actually have some breaking news that we have to get to on the other side, but we can't hear more about your love life. I'm sorry, Ashley. It was very scintillating. Right back. Fox News alert. According to the AP, voters in Virginia have approved Democrats' plan to gerrymander congressional districts 50 to 49. This could flip 4 House seats from Republican control to Democrats. Emma's aunt wrote a book, A Lady in Danger. Suspense on the Jersey Shore. Susan Paytas is the author. It's got everything. Murder, mystery, romance. Go check it out. That is all for us tonight. The Sean Hannity's next. DVR the show, and always remember, I'm Waters, and this is my world.
And welcome to Hannity. Tonight we start with this Fox News alert. Now, new reporting tonight. Sources telling me that the ceasefire extension in Iran announced by the president. That will be short-lived unless a deal is reached quickly. Now, earlier today, the president announced that American strikes will not yet resume, and he will allow peace negotiations to continue. According to my sources, mostly this was out of respect for the Pakistani mediators and as a final push for peace for the war-torn Iranian people. The president is also giving more time to Iran's regime to attempt to coordinate and actually communicate with each other, which nobody's really factored in because they're kind of shallow in their analysis. It is not an easy task in Iran these days. Thanks to America's incredible military intel campaign, it's not like any of these leaders are free to just pick up a cell phone and call other leaders in the country without the very real fear of being blown to pieces. Now, we'll have much more on this in a moment. The president just put out a truce saying Iran doesn't want the strait closed. They want it open. They're losing $500 million a day. Now, along with the ongoing schism inside Iran, which frankly is not the president's problem, but tonight we are tracking multiple major breaking stories around the country and across the globe. In Virginia, the race has been called. The yes votes have won out on that special referendum Democrats will use to try and attempt to rig all but one of the state's 11 congressional districts in their favor. Donald Trump got 46% of the vote. Now, the wording of this amendment, it was so corrupt, so abusively one-sided and biased, a judicial review is a certainty. Meanwhile, in Florida, a Democratic congresswoman just resigned amid a 15-count criminal corruption indictment. We have a report on that tonight. And also tonight, new details surrounding the deaths, the disappearances of multiple scientists working on top-secret government projects, including UFO-related research. And sad news also tonight out of Mexico, where 2 Americans purportedly working for the CIA were killed when their car, quote, plunged 600 feet off a cliff and burst into flames. Plus, in a moment, we're going to contrast President Trump's efforts to save the lives of 8 Iranian women that are scheduled to be executed to that of a top Democratic senator from Connecticut who is literally cheering for Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Senator John Fetterman will weigh in on that. But we begin in Iran tonight, where President Trump offered a short temporary lifeline to the disjointed Iranian regime, writing on Truth Social, quote, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and upon the request of Pakistan's prime minister, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. But this is no cause for celebration among the hardline terrorists running Iran, because the president has, quote, directed our military to continue the blockade and in all other respects, remain ready and able. And the president just put out that the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Iran doesn't want it to be that way. They want it to be open so they can make $500 million a day, which is therefore the reason that's how much they're losing as it is closed. They only say they want to close because I've totally blockaded it and closed it. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, pointed out because of this blockade, quote, in a matter of days, Karg Island, their storage will be full, and the fragile Iranian oil wells, then they will be shut in, constraining Iran's maritime trade, directly targeting the regime's primary revenue lifelines. And breaking moments ago in this new post, let me read it in full. Iran doesn't want the Strait of Hormuz closed. They want it open so they can make $500 million a day, which is therefore what they are losing if it is closed. They will only say they want it closed because I have it totally blockaded, closed. So they merely want to save face. And people approached me 4 days ago saying, sir, Iran wants to open up the strait immediately. But if we do that, there can never be a deal with Iran unless we blow up the rest of their country, their leaders included. As Napoleon once famously stated, never interrupt your enemy when they are making a mistake. As we speak, infighting is now rampant inside the Iranian regime. Communication, as I said, nearly impossible, which could, in the end, collapse on itself. Put simply, they are desperate. Not only was our military beat down, their military beat down, and ours on them a huge success, but tonight there is no doubt this blockade is causing massive pain inside of Iran's government. In fact, they are reportedly desperate for President Trump to lift that blockade, which, according to U.S. Central Command, has directed 28 vessels to turn around, return to port, and even seized a belligerent Iranian tanker just yesterday. The question tonight, will economic ruin force Iran's hardline Revolutionary Guard to negotiate? And just who will ultimately win the power struggle inside a fractured Iran? And by the way, can we get arms in the hands of the Iranian people? That might be helpful. And soon time will tell. The clock is ticking. The pressure from both inside and outside Iran is immense tonight. Here at the very latest, our very own Greg Palcott. He is once again in Tel Aviv tonight. Greg.
Hey, Sean, as you have been noting, the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, set to run out, has been extended, at least on the American side, as talks for a deal between the two countries are on hold. Negotiations were supposed to take place in Pakistan, Iran, then the U.S. were no-shows. According to the president in a post later Tuesday, because the Iranian government is so fractured, his words, they haven't come up with a unified response. And so he wrote, I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and in all other respects remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or another. The naval actions include the U.S. military interdicting an Iranian-linked tanker ship on Tuesday away from the Gulf in the Indian Ocean southeast of Sri Lanka. U.S. service members went on board, part of a shadow fleet Iran uses to evade sanctions, and Sunday's seizure of an Iranian-linked vessel with suspect cargo as it made its way along the Iran coast near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran, too, has been taking its shots at shipping with its own chokehold on the waterway. One Iranian official brushed off the ceasefire extension, claiming, quote, the losing side cannot set the terms. Iran's foreign minister citing the U.S. naval blockade and the seizure of ships as violations of the ceasefire, acts of war, adding Iran knows how to neutralize restrictions and bullying. Still, Sean, the next days will show how real this new ceasefire is, and more importantly, how good this pressure tactic by the administration is at delivering the goods. Back to you.
All right, Greg Palcott in Tel Aviv tonight. Thank you. Joining us now with more insight into what's happening behind the scenes inside both the U.S. military, what's left of the Iranian military, former special envoy to Ukraine and Russia, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg is with us. So I got confirmation that the Pakistanis tried to explain in detail, almost begging the president, please give our peace opportunity a little more time. They don't have the ability to communicate with each other. For example, you might have the head of the IRGC in one place. You might have the people that are negotiating in another place. It's not like they can pick up a cell phone, General. And the president rightly pointing out, it's costing them $500 million a day. At some point, it is their entire economy. They can't survive much longer, regardless of who may think that they're in charge. So, again, it's the hard way or the easy way, is it not?
Yeah, Sean, thanks for having me tonight. Look, I would just say let's not negotiate anymore. Let's just walk away. Let's finish the job. And when you think about their fractured command and control, Vahedi's in charge of the IRGC. Under the Mosaic Doctrine, they've broken that down to 31 IRGC headquarters, and they've thought about fighting the United States. So my point to them being fractured in their leadership, which it is because of President Trump and what he has done, is I'd say let's create more problems for them and try to figure this out. That's why I keep going back to take something like Karg Island or seize the islands in the Strait of Hormuz with the Tripoli and Boxer ARGs that you've got there. You've got elements of the 82nd Theater. They can take Karg Island. And all of a sudden now you're creating and compounding the problem for them to try to solve. And I don't think they can solve it because they don't have the leadership left that can figure this out. And you now control it. You could put a provisional government, if you want to, on Karg Island and try to figure it out as well. But this is the whole way of trying to give them problems that they can solve. And constantly saying we're going to negotiate, that's right out of their playbook. You know, when you have somebody like Karachi, who's their foreign minister, who wrote a book on negotiations, this was part of his negotiation strategy. He called it the market strategy. It's like being in a bazaar, trying to buy a rug, bartering back and forth. I would say, done, we're done. The president gave them ample opportunity. He was very gracious in an attempt to talk their way through it. Now let's just finish it out. And I think we can finish it out. We can strangle them economically. We're doing that with the blockade. Let's compound the problem. Not only do we have terrain, we've got the blockade as well. And instead of bombing like their power plants, bomb something that really hurts them, that their fuel industry or something like that, instead of going after things that hurt the people. So I think we still have cards to play. The president sure does. I wouldn't bet against the president of the United States at all on this one.
All right, their currency is currently zero. It's worth nothing. They have a 180 to 200% inflation rate. Half of their working population is no longer working. They're losing $500 million a day. That is 90% of their entire economy. The president, the military operation aspect of taking out their infrastructure and Karg Island, if he chooses to do that, wipes out their economy permanently. Now, there are outside forces the president's thinking about. He's been asked by the Pakistanis, we cannot get a hold of both sides inside of Iran for them to come up with their agreement. Can you give us a little more time? I don't think the president loses anything by giving them a little more time. They're still losing their economy in the process. The blockade has been 100% effective. So, and then I think in the back of the president's mind is like he knows that there's 90 million people that will be impacted by a very easy military decision, which is to wipe out this place.
Yeah, you know, Sean, the problem, you know, one of the principles of war, that are principles of war, is simplicity. And you want to make it as simple as you can, but you want to make it complicated for the other side. So you create problems for them. You give them options that they have to address at the same time. And they don't have the capacity, the capability to do that because they don't have people that are really experienced in that and are in charge. You look at somebody like Vahedi, if you look at his background, he's only there because we got rid of the last Revolutionary Guards leader, and now he's in charge of it. He's distributed his command and control to the 31 regions due to this Mosaic Doctrine they've got, and now you're asking them to do some command and control. They can't do it. So my point is you make it so hard for them, it eventually breaks. You compound the problem they've got. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with the blockade, add to the problem with them. And I think if we do that, we keep adding pressure to them, they're eventually going to buckle. And then remember, the IRGC is not the Army. There's two separate activities. You've got the Army, which is twice the size of the IRGC, and you want to fragment them as well. And then you've got the IRGC, or zealots, and you look at a theocratic government, which are zealots. And now you look at the people that are trying to lead that, Kalibov, you look at Arachi and Vahidi, and they're all zealots, and you want to get rid of them as well. So you create friction for the Iranians that they cannot control. And I would just like to see the president do that more and more, keep ramping it up. There's ways to do it. Not necessarily bomb stuff, because we've bombed the heck out of them already. And I'm sure there's still more on the target list. But you create problems for their leadership. And problems for the leadership is not that, oh, they just bombed this factory. It's command, control, and what they actually control in their economic standards. And take away that economic ability. So I would say eventually they're going to fall. If you want to take a long time, do it with a blockade. Do it with a shorter time, compound the problem, create issues for them that they have no ability to operate with and control.
One last part that doesn't get talked about enough, in my view, and that is arming the Iranian people themselves. Very effective when Reagan armed the Contra rebels in Nicaragua. Very effective when the Mujahideen got Stinger missiles in their war against the former Soviet Union. The Soviet Union lost that war as a result. Is that a good idea?
I think it's a good idea, but I'm on the hard side when I'm saying using military force in the sense, use the agencies, a group that does that, their special operations group, or you use special forces to do it, go in with weapons. You just don't give them weapons to use. You actually have advisors with them to help them train that, and you create a guerrilla warfare. I think they're ready for that. They'll be able to do that, but you compound the problems they've got to try to solve, and that's what you want to do. You got to break their will, you got to break their command and control, and I think eventually they're going to fold. Economically especially, the president has it right. He had the guts to do it.
All right, $500 million a day. That's a lot of money to lose in revenue. I would imagine they want the strait open. Lieutenant General Kellogg, thank you. We appreciate you joining us. Now, today, President Trump personally called on Iran to release 8 women set to be executed for merely protesting the regime, writing, quote, "I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. I'm sure that they will respect the fact that you did so. Please do them no harm." Would be a great start to negotiations. Sadly, this push for peace and mercy was not echoed by Democratic leaders. Listen to this. Instead, one senator from Connecticut, Chris Murphy, retweeted Iranian propaganda from a foreign news site posted by a former UN hack. The article falsely bragged, quote, "At least 26 Iranian shadow fleet vessels bypass U.S. blockade." Senator Murphy replied, "Awesome." By the way, that is absolutely not true, that any Iranian ship was able to slip past the blockade. It didn't happen. He later then claimed, oh, he was just being sarcastic. Chris Murphy does not deserve the benefit of the doubt. Murphy was just in Europe, comparing our duly elected American president to a fascist while speaking before an audience full of socialists and communists. This radical senator also has a long history of cozy relations with Iran. In fact, in 2019, during Trump's first term, Senator Murphy, he secretly met with Iran's foreign minister, admitting, quote, "For years, I have met on occasion with Iran's foreign minister during both the Obama and Trump administrations." I wonder what Senator Murphy talked about. Senator Chris, you care to tell us your shared disdain for the great Satan and the little Satan and the U.S. and Israel? Now, keep in mind, Senator Murphy has publicly advocated for Iran's evil Revolutionary Guard to be removed from America's terrorist watch list. Take a look at this.
Would you take the Iran's Revolutionary Guard off the terror list in order to get a deal?
Yes. I mean, the practical impact of designating them as a foreign terrorist organization is inconsequential. We have dozens of other terrorist designations on the IRGC that would remain. And so, to me, if that's the barrier to getting a deal, then let's get it done.
Problem with the radicalized Democratic Party. A sitting senator, more compassion for the murderers, the terrorists inside the Islamic Revolutionary Guard than his own fellow Americans right here at home. Should make every American sick. Here to respond to Murphy's colleague, Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. Senator, you want to respond to that?
Well, I think it's fair to say, and I don't mean that as an insult one way or the other, but I would say that my colleague from Connecticut and I are on the opposite spectrum on a lot of this issues with Iran and Israel, and essentially the Democratic Party too. You know, joke about it, sarcasm, whatever it is. But without a doubt, the Democratic Party, and I'm the only Democrat effectively left in Congress to support epic fury. It's almost as if, you know, we've forgotten on the Democratic side that the real enemy, the real threat, the real danger is Iran and its proxies too. And, you know, every single Democrat, we want to break Iran. We make sure they never acquire a nuclear bomb as we are approaching that 60 day of the war powers in the law. You know, Iran must be so excited by the American media and the Democratic parties, the way it's like, as long as we can hang on for 60 days, more and more people continue to vote against, you know, the Trump administration to end the Iranian regime. And so why can we be this close and allow them to acquire a nuclear bomb? So that's my real concern. And I don't ever want to be on the wrong side of history to say, I'm going to walk away from it. You know, I'm not going to finish this why we showed up. I've supported it the entire time. And I don't know where the votes are going to be if it takes 2 or 3 on the Republican side. I don't know, but I'm going to say where my vote is, because I'm firmly on the side of Israel. I'm firmly on the side of, Iran is the evil regime. And why is really we are the only one talking about the 8 Iranian women that are going to be hung? You know, like why, you know, people on the left aren't talking about that. Why aren't they protesting that Iran's about to hang women in Iran? You know, they are the evil regime. And this is a 47-year-old experiment in a war crime. You know, we're a little over 47 days. You know, here we are. We're at a very important inflection point in the Middle East. So that's why I'm going to continue to support this, because Iran can't ever acquire a nuclear bomb. That's not a radical idea for the Democratic Party, not even recently, back in 2024. Until you're not willing to really do anything about it, then those are empty words. We should be firmly on this side to hold Iran fully accountable.
Let me ask you, Senator. I mean, obviously the embargo's been effective. They can't get $500 million a day in revenue. That's a lot of money. Obviously, the military campaign has been effective beyond any comprehension, I think, of most people, especially when you compare it to past conflicts. Now it's a matter of wrapping this up. How do we define wrapping it up? That would be retrieving or entombing the nuclear dust. And number 2, opening the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, it has to be in the Iranians' best interest if they want any economy at all to do so. Your thoughts?
What I absolutely hope. I mean, one of the primary issues for Iran is once they become a nuclear power, they become untouchable in the region, and they can toll the strait and do it effectively whatever they want. You know, and remember, you know, if there's the Democratic Party is becoming increasingly aggressively anti-Israel. You know, Democrats now are voting against Iron Dome now. They're willing to vote and support, you know, Israel soon. So imagine we can't leave Israel in that position if we're not going to fully put Iran in its appropriate with its. I think overall it's been a strong campaign up to this point to break the military. I don't hope we walk away. You know, I think we should we should ask and give the president the opportunity to provide the support to take those nuclear materials to prevent Iran from ever building a nuclear bomb.
One thing I can assure you, Senator, President Trump's not walking away. And if people want to misinterpret him being gracious to the Prime Minister in Pakistan and the people of Iran and give them time to communicate, considering. Yeah. All right, Senator Fetterman, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, also tonight, Democratic power grab in Virginia, which ultimately will eliminate all but one Republican seat in a state that the president only lost by 5 points. a blatant power grab, had support from high-ranking Democrats, including Barack Obama. Currently is, only working if, in fact, it withstands court review. We'll have more on the latest with Kevin Corke and more straight ahead, and we'll have analysis from Reince Priebus, Ari Fleischer, straight ahead. And tonight, a shocking report out of Mexico where 2 U.S. Embassy officials purportedly working for the CIA were killed in a car crash following a raid on a secret drug lab. Our very own Christina Coleman has the very latest. Christina, sad story.
Oh, yes, so sad. I mean, it's just awful. 2 U.S. agents were killed after the vehicle they were traveling in crashed off a road and exploded in a ravine in a remote mountain area in northern Chihuahua, Mexico over the weekend. 2 Mexican investigators were with them and also died in the crash. Sources familiar with the situation say the U.S. officials were working with the CIA and returning from a joint operation that involved destroying a cartel-operated drug lab. During this operation, these materials were seized. Now, this comes as the Trump administration continues to crack down on drug trafficking and cartel-related activity. However, there's a lack of clarity over the extent of the involvement of the U.S. agents over the weekend. According to Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, she says the U.S. officials were not authorized to be working with regional authorities and that she's looking into the matter.
Until now, the information we have is that they were working together. Let's put it that way. Then all the investigation has to be done by the public prosecutor's office to see if the Constitution or the national security law was violated.
Also in Mexico, authorities are investigating a deadly shooting that happened at a very popular tourist site yesterday. 1 Canadian visitor was killed and 13 others were injured, including 6 Americans. This is video of the lone gunman. Authorities identified him as a 27-year-old Mexican national. They say he was standing atop one of the iconic Teotihuacan pyramids when he opened fire on the tourists before shooting and killing himself. It was a very chaotic scene. Authorities say he was carrying notes and books that referenced the 1999 Columbine High School shooting. Monday was the 27th anniversary of that massacre, and those injured in yesterday's shooting range in age from 6 to 61 years old. Just a tragedy, Sean.
It is indeed. Christina Coleman, thank you for that report, as sad as it is. Now, questions are mounting after 11 American nuclear and space-linked scientists have either disappeared or died, all under mysterious circumstances, all within the last 4 years. Now, both the FBI and the House Oversight Committee are investigating this string of mysteries, including the disappearance of a former U.S. official who oversaw some of the military's most classified research programs. Here with reactions. She is the host of Crime Stories. Our friend Nancy Grace is back. 1, an isolated incident. 2, a coincidence. 3 or more, a pattern. We have 11. Okay, you've been studying all of these people. What do you see as a common theme, and what should law enforcement be putting together and our intel community be putting together?
I know that Comer has just announced that the government is looking into this, but surprisingly, and you're going to be very surprised at this after what we went through with the Nancy Guthrie case with the feds not being invited in, guess what? Back in March, sources are stating the feds uninvited jumped into the disappearance of McCaslin. McCaslin, General Neil McCaslin, commanded the AFRL, the Air Force Research Lab, senior Pentagon official. Now, I'm going to tell you what they did. I'm going to tell you how they disappeared. McCaslin disappeared, Sean, in the space of less than 1 hour. He was at home. A repairman saw him. His wife saw him. She leaves for a hair appointment a little after 11. She gets back a little after 12:04 to be exact. He's gone, on foot. Takes no tracking devices such as smartwatch, phone, prescription glasses. He takes one thing, his hiking boots, he's wearing them, and a .38. Why? Listen to this. Shortly after, a gray Air Force sweatshirt was found about a mile away. The only thing that would have identified him, gone. Scent dogs, cadaver dogs, nothing. Seemingly disappeared into thin air. That's number one. Okay. Chavez, Anthony Chavez. Listen to this. He answered to McCaslin. Very high up, he worked at a site critical for nuclear research. It's called DART, Dual Axis Radiographic Hydrodynamic Facility. That's just the name of it. Can you imagine what he did in there? Answer to McCaslin. Like McCaslin, he leaves home on foot near Los Alamos, leaves behind, like McCaslin, wallet, keys, cigarettes, all mode of transportation, cell phone, never seen again. They even sent out cadaver dogs looking for him. Nothing. On foot, gone. Number two, Garcia. He built nuclear parts for the AFRL, Air Force Research Lab. Built nuclear parts, and he helped supply 80% of the non-nuclear components for nuclear weapons, all nuclear sites. Important, right? Stephen Garcia disappears, Albuquerque. Lots of this is happening in New Mexico. Leaves home on foot, leaves behind wallet, keys, car, takes a handgun. It's almost as if they were told to leave. They took nothing to identify them. 2 of them took a handgun. Wait, that's 3 of them took a handgun. I've got 2 more for you, and I'll be brief. Missing mom. This is the one that really gets me, because there's no way Melissa Casillas would have left her daughter. She drops off a Subway sandwich to her daughter at lunchtime. She's going to work from home. She's spotted on surveillance, Sean, around 2:18 p.m., eastbound Road 518. She never took walks in the hot afternoons there. She leaves behind keys, cell, work cell, wallet, purse. Both her work phone and her personal phone had been factory reset before she left. She worked with Chavez at Los Alamos. How are people saying no connection? And last, aerospace engineer Monica Jacinto Reza. She developed the super alloy I was telling you about last night called Mondelez for rockets. McCaslin oversaw and funded her work. She's on foot. She's hiking in the Angeles National Forest. Her friends are ahead of her. They turn around. She waves. She smiles. They turn back around. A few minutes later, Sean, she's gone. There was a very high-tech search for her immediately. Nothing. It's like all 5 of them vanish into thin air. Just like that. How are people saying this is not connected?
Oh, it's connected. It's a pattern. And I learned that from you. And 1, an isolated incident. 2, a coincidence. 3 or more. No, nobody will ever convince me this is all just random and independent. Don't believe it. They better get to work fast. Nancy Grace, great to have you. Thank you. And coming up, Democrats now free to rig the congressional districts in Virginia. They get 10 safe seats. Republicans get 1, at least for now. Let's see what Judicial Review ends up saying. Another Democratic lawmaker resigns from Congress. We have more details on that straight ahead. All right, another Democrat has just had to resign in disgrace, and the voters of Virginia have just decided to gerrymander their state's congressional map and add more Democrats to the House. Here with all the details, our very own Kevin Corke. He is in the swamp, our nation's capital tonight. Kevin.
Sean, we'll see if it all happens. Obviously, there's going to be a court challenge, and I found it interesting tonight, right around 7:48, the no vote was up by about 100,000, and then about an hour later, the AP called the race the other way. Now, if this does go through, the Democrats would have a 10-to-1 seat advantage in the Commonwealth of Virginia, a net pickup by as many as 4 House seats, again, thanks to a potentially redrawn district map. And if you thought the scales were tipped in their favor with all the Soros money pouring in, wait until you see how the question itself was framed. It read this way: should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections while ensuring Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting after the 2030 census? If that seemed tilted in one direction, you're not alone if you think that. And of course, it seems like tonight that may have worked out for the Democratic push. Meantime, Sean, 7 words for you tonight. She's not out of the woods yet. Yes, it's true. Florida Congresswoman Sheila McCormick stepped down from her post today, avoiding expulsion following that ethics probe. But she still faces a 15-count federal criminal indictment and a maximum sentence of 53 years in prison for alleged FEMA and COVID-19 emergency funds fraud. She's accused of getting over $5 million from the government by accident, but instead of giving it back or, telling somebody about it, she allegedly, along with her brother, spent the cash on her campaign, on a $100,000 ring and other jewelry, a car, high-end hotels, clothing, and even a cruise. Her federal trial won't happen until next year. We'll see if she takes a plea. It would seem to be the wise choice. I'll tell you all about it as it happens, but for now, back to you.
All right, Kevin Cork, thank you. Joining us now with their reaction are Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer, Fox News political analyst Reince Priebus. Well, they should have called this "Let's cheat Donald Trump in the midterm constitutional amendment." Reince, I mean, the idea, temporarily adopt new congressional districts by the General Assembly to restore fairness in the upcoming elections. How do Democrats define fairness? They get 10 safe congressional seats. Republicans get 1 in a state where Donald Trump got 46% of the vote. Is that restoring fairness? Will that be upheld with judicial review, which is almost a guarantee?
Well, Sean, this is one of the most elegant power grabs in redistricting that I've ever seen. I mean, it's completely full of lies. There's nothing temporary about this. Everyone who understands anything about redistricting knows that once you redraw the lines, as they're proposing to cut through Fairfax County, I think like in 8 different ways, obviously there's nothing fair, there's nothing temporary about that. After those lines are drawn, they're proposing then now this commission, which is probably left-leaning too, is somehow going to now bring them back to where they used to be or what they should be. It just isn't the case. I mean, the fact of the matter is, here's the harsh reality for Republicans. When you lose elections like they have in Virginia, it is like watching your, someone you don't really care for that much, moving into your house, rearranging the furniture, ransacking the place, changing your locks while you stand out in the yard. I mean, that's really what's happening. But the saving grace may be the Supreme Court of Virginia. It will be an immediate appeal because in redistricting, it's on an emergency docket. It'll be immediate appeal. And the things that the court are going to look for, and the most important thing, there's other factors, but does the map proposed by the Democrats that Fox News has shown many times on the air, does that violate the idea of violating a community of interest? In other words, if you live in Roanoke, Virginia, which is Southwest Virginia, and you've got a map, or Charlottesville, which is in the middle, that cuts all the way up to Fairfax County, and then you've got another one coming from, Southeast Virginia, cutting into Fairfax County, because for the viewers, that's where all the Democrats live. Does that violate a community of interest? And I think it does. So they may have a hard time getting to 10-1 through the court. They probably can get to 8-3. But I don't know if they can get to 10-1. Regardless, they're doing what Democrats do, and they did it.
And Ari, the disenfranchising, about 80% of the population in Virginia, they won't have representation. And that is really unfair to them. But James Carville said the quiet part out loud. If the Democrats get full power, D.C. statehood, Puerto Rico statehood, and they're going to pack the Supreme Court. This is what they do. They cheat. This is why they don't want proof of citizenship or voter ID.
Yeah, there is a lot going on here with this Virginia redistricting, and let us hope that the Virginia Supreme Court strikes it down. And one of the interesting things will be, if it is struck down, after all these states, starting with Texas, engaged in mid-cycle redistricting, if Virginia is struck down, we're essentially going to end up with a wash. If Virginia is allowed, the Democrats were going to end up with a net of probably about 4 to 6 seats after all these various states, Texas, California, Missouri, all the states went through their own midterm redistricting. And Sean, I've got to say, and this might be something you disagree with, but right after Texas went through with its redistricting last summer, I tweeted that redistricting should happen only every 10 years after the census. Mid-cycle redistricting is never fair. And it's not fair if Republicans do it, and it's not fair when Democrats do it. And this in Texas set off a predictable chain reaction. When Texas did it, it was so easy to see California is going to counter, other states are going to counter. Politics has got to be better than that. I'm for rough and tumble politics. I'm for tough gerrymanders. But every 10 years after the census, after you know what the makeup of the country is, so you have legitimate reasons to draw lines. But if politics is only about Republicans grabbing power or Democrats grabbing power, what is left that keeps us together as a country? It cannot just be about either party grabbing power. Republicans started it in Texas. Democrats have now capped it off in Virginia. This is not healthy for anybody in this country, regardless of party. So I'm proud I said it last summer. I say it even more after Virginia went and did what it did.
I can't see this withstanding judicial review. We'll see over time. Thank you both. Coming up, even Kamala Harris's biggest fans don't want to run again. And John Brennan, so proud of the Russia hoax. And New York's cursed Marxist mayor is now addressing the Mets losing since he was hugging Mr. Met. Tomi Lahren weighs in. All right, time now for other news. New York City Mayor Zohran Marxist Kami Mamdani addressing the Mamdani curse. As we reported yesterday, the New York Mets are on now an 11-game losing streak, including 10 after the mayor was seen hugging the team's mascot earlier this month. When he was asked about the alleged curse, here's what he had to say. Take a listen.
I'll first say that there's a lot of baseball left to be played, and I am still keeping the faith, though I will accept being addressed as Mayor Mambino for the day.
The Mets tonight are playing against the Minnesota Twins. Not looking good. Looks like the streak continues. Here with reaction, the co-host of the Big Weekend Show, always fearless, Tomi Lahren. And by the way, full disclosure, Tommy's husband, a great coach that works with the Mets organization. I'm sure he's not loving this. I know you're not.
No, I'm not. And, you know, I have to say, Sean, although my husband is a coach for the team, I don't in any way speak for the New York Mets. But if I did, and I don't, I would say this. The only way to reverse this, Sean, is President Trump has to come to a Mets game. All right? That's the only way we break the curse. I was just watching the game before we came on air. It looks like they're going to lose to the Twins. President Trump, you got to do the right thing. I know he's a Yankees fan. We got to get him to a Mets game. Again, I'm saying this not as a representative of the Mets, just as Tomi Lahren. I think Trump needs to go to a Mets game.
Poor Mr. Met. He had to take the hug from the commie. But it's not looking good. It certainly seems to be a curse. All right, billionaire Mark Cuban, who arguably was one of Kamala Harris's most outspoken supporters during her 24 campaign, now is unburdened by what has been. He says Kamala Harris should not run again. Take a look.
You're a major Kamala Harris surrogate in 2024, and I'm going to give you a pop quiz. What was her message on health care?
Don't remember, don't care. Those days are gone. It doesn't matter. All I can tell you is Republicans...
Do you think she had one?
I don't care.
So let me rephrase that in a forward-looking way, or revise it in a forward-looking way. Would you like to see her run for president again?
No.
And tell me why not.
It doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter?
To me, again, I don't care at this point in time. Right now, you know, we've got until 2028. I don't care who the candidates are. I'm not trying to pick a candidate. I'm not trying to promote a candidate. I'm trying to change how up this healthcare industry is right now. That's all I care about.
I'm in favor of her running, I'll be honest.
Well, when it comes to Mark Cuban, I think he wants us all to forget that he was one of those white dudes for Harris. But unfortunately for him, the internet is forever, and he's never going to get away from it. So he's going to have to live with that. He really doesn't like being asked about it, and I understand it. But you know what's even worse, Sean? Some polls show Kamala actually polling ahead of Gavin Newsom. So that's embarrassing, so embarrassing for Gavin Newsom. I think she also sold more books legitimately than Gavin Newsom has thus far. So listen, it's not looking good for the Democrats. They might want to gerrymander the heck out of the maps in Virginia, but I don't know. You got to win the people, the whole country. I don't think it's going to work.
All right. Tommy Lahren, Fearless, the big weekend show. Don't miss it. When we come back and preview my podcast with NASCAR champion Kyle Busch dropped today. We have a highlight straight ahead. A new episode of my podcast, Hanging Out with Me, Sean Hannity, dropped today, featuring NASCAR legend, the villain himself, Kyle Busch. Take a look.
We're all a traveling trailer park, but no, there's some guys that are friends and they've hung out together because they grew up racing together. So like my son, he's 10 years old, but he started racing with some of his buddies and they hang out and they talk and whatnot. But I grew up in Vegas, and when I went to the racetrack, I kind of grew up the way of like, you bring your friends with you and you hate everybody else that's there because they're your competition.
He hates every other racer. He's not kidding either. Check it out. YouTube, Spotify, type in Hang Out with Sean Hannity in the search bar and click the subscribe button. That's all the time we have left. Please set your DVR so you never, ever miss an episode of Hannity. In the meantime, let not your heart be troubled. Greg Gutfeld's next. He'll put a smile on your face. Have a great night with your family.
Ply believes American flags should be made in America.
Our symbol of freedom made outside our borders, that did not sit right.
Join us in our mission to keep the American flag truly American. Don't settle for flags made elsewhere.
Every flag is proudly crafted in the USA with superior materials.
Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality, made-in-America flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
I was tired of being told no to my dreams. But Shopify made it easy to get this brand going. Now we can take golf to a realm that we've never seen before. We're Eastside Golf, and we're powered by Shopify.
At Omaha Steaks, we take premium aged steak and turn it into pure ground burgers like this. Get 8 new Wagyu smash burgers free with the Burger Perfection Flight. Just $99.99 at omahasteaks.com/TV. Burger perfection guaranteed.
Fox News at Night has you covered.
We begin with breaking information.
From critical events here at home to the global conflict shaping our world.
We will cover it in full.
Don't miss Trace Gallagher, weeknights at 11 on Fox News at Night.
Dana Perino, Fire Broke, Michael Walker, Scott Depp, Tower Studio, Fox News, unbreakable, I love you, America. Good evening, I'm Trace Gallagher. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast, 8 o'clock here in Los Angeles, and this is America's Late News, Fox News at Night. And breaking tonight, political balance on the ballot. Virginians voting to redraw the state congressional districts, which could cost Republicans up to 4 seats in the House. Plus, President Trump extending the ceasefire with Iran, keeping the U.S. blockade in place, and now waiting for a response.
The president's made it clear what his objectives are. You're going to capitulate and meet my objectives, or we're going to call the shots, and we can ratchet it up at any time we want.
Also breaking tonight, the federal government announcing charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center, accusing the left-wing organization of funneling millions of dollars to the very groups it claims to condemn.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
We'll have much more on that, but we begin with extending the ceasefire and trying to clarify the timeline for more peace talks. Christina Coleman is live with the new information on this. Christina, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Trace. The U.S. is extending its ceasefire with Iran indefinitely at the request of Pakistan. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. This as the Trump administration keeps the Navy blockade in place to try and pressure Iran into releasing its stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's foreign minister is condemning that action, writing, quote, blockading Iranian ports is an act of war and thus a violation of the ceasefire. Striking a commercial vessel and taking its crew hostage is an even greater violation. Meantime, analysts say Iran is in a very tough spot.
If they submit, they're going to be humiliated, so they don't want to do that, whoever's in charge. Or they can attack and send some missiles. If they do that, they're going to lose big time their infrastructure. or I think the most viable they think is to drag this out and out.
Meantime, Pakistan continues to work to get both Iran and the U.S. to the table for another round of peace talks. Trace.
Christina, thank you. Let's bring in Israeli Special Ops veteran Aaron Cohen, former Deputy National Security Advisor Steve Yates, and Washington Post editorial member Karine Hajar. Thank you all for coming on. Steve Yates, to you first. I want to play some sound. This is the chief strategist for the Middle East Forum.
Anybody who says this fracture between the religious leadership and the military and their civilian political leadership is a bad thing doesn't understand how to break a tyrannical regime. Of course we want them arguing with each other. Anybody who thinks they're ahead in this game is not paying attention.
What do you think, Steve? Is he right?
I basically agree with that. And when you take away 2 or 3 layers of a leadership, you're going to have lack of coordination, and that is a good thing when you had a theocratic regime that was terrorizing a region and pursuing the world's worst weapons. We've degraded so many of the big strategic power projection capabilities of Iran. There are remnants that can strike out in tactical ways that are problematic, but I think the president has been gradually upping the pressure and upping capabilities to compel an outcome. And I think the last part of this at this point is going to be the financial tools that are in the Secretary of Treasury's hands and keeping the embargo in place. I really don't think they have more than a matter of days, if at most a couple of weeks, before economic pressure is overwhelming for whatever the remnants are trying to hold on to.
I think he's right. I think they are, Aaron Cohen, trying to compel this outcome, whatever that might be. Reuters headline reads the following here: Trump's ceasefire extension, a ploy to buy time, in quotation marks, for surprise strike, advisor to Iran's top negotiator says. I mean, is Trump trying to buy time here? Because all we've heard is, oh, Iran's trying to buy time. Maybe Trump's trying to buy some time here too, Aaron. What do you think?
I think that President Trump, I think that the United States, I think that Israel has been in control of this operation for the last 2.5 months. Over 14,000 targets have been hit. Over 200 of Iran top leaders have been eliminated, Trace, assassinated. The head of the IRGC, the head of Navy, the head of their intelligence. The supreme leader, by the way, is no longer with us, Trace. Right. Everything here is about President Trump's total control over this highly thought out operation. I think this time allows the United States military to regroup. I think it allows them to reassess new target packages if they need to escalate. And I think it allows them to rearm if they decide to escalate. And the fact is that Trump is the one who is in complete operational control of this entire mission packet. And right now, Iran is completely discombobulated. They've got no leadership left, Trace.
Yep, well, certainly few. I mean, that's the whole thing is, the question is who those few are. The president posted this on Truth Social, Karine Hajar. He says, quoting here, to the Iranian leaders who will soon be in negotiation with my representatives, I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. I am sure that they will respect the fact that you did so. Please do them no harm. Would be a great start to our negotiation. He's talking about women who are about to be executed. It would be a great start. Kind of a message to the Iranian people as well, Karine.
Yes, this is certainly a message, and we have to remember that at the beginning of the year, the president really stood up for protesters and dissenting voices in Iran. Now, I think this is both an opportunity for the Iranians to prove that they're going to come to the table, but this is also a test for the president. Remember, he said that he was going to be there for the protesters, and of course what followed was a brutal crackdown from the regime. And so I really hope that the regime obviously does the right thing, but never underestimate the mullah's capability for great evil.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The former Deputy CENTCOM Commander Robert Harward was talking on the Ingram angle tonight, Steve Yates. He said the following.
What's clear is the president controls not only the strategy, but the tempo. They've been heavy on rhetoric, less on action, and the president's made it clear what his objectives are. You're going to capitulate and meet my objectives, or we're going to call the shots, and we can ratchet it up at any time we want, be it tomorrow if he's so inclined. How long can they keep their power on? How long can they feed their people? So that's the game here.
The most interesting part of that soundbite to me, Steve Yates, is when he says that he's actually controlling the tempo here, and I think it's a fair assessment. What do you think?
I do. I agree, too. The president has been very gradualist in this. It's not like a lot of other campaigns where you could have gone in with shock and awe and taken over a country and try to run it yourself. In some ways, that is more efficient, but we learned from sad experience it doesn't always work well in the aftermath. And so there's been this combination, a joint operation with Israel that is unprecedented also, many opportunities for allies to come in, some of which have chosen not to. And so he's sort of bobbing and weaving and assessing, but really in the last week plus, I think we've been replenishing. And so I think we have added capability if we need to amp up to really take out the threats that are coming from the Iranian side of the Gulf out. I think we have a replenished force ready to do so, and the Iranians have to know that at some level.
Yeah, I mean, he says bobbing and weaving, Aaron. A lot of people have said, you know, the president might be playing a little bit of rope-a-dope if you go back to the George Foreman days, right? And the whole idea is that, you know, some have said maybe it's time to take Carg Island. Maybe it's time to go in there and do something dramatic and bold. What do you think?
I think Carg Island is and will always be on the table. It's the centrifuge of Iran's gasoline hub. Without it, they're starved. At the end of the day, I think what we're seeing right now is what I call the economic pressure campaign. The Strait, which Iran does not and has never controlled, is completely controlled by the U.S. Navy. Carg Island is just a stone throw away. If the IRGC, which Trump has just given an extension to, can't really figure out, Trace, who's running the show at this point right now, Trump could escalate, take that island, put his finger on the remnants of the pressure valve on their throat. End of story. Iran's lights go out. Regime completely collapses.
Former U.S. Special Representative for Iran talked about the deep confusion, Karine. Here's what he said.
Anytime you have deep confusion inside of a dictatorship, you know that they're on the defensive. This isn't typically how dictatorships behave. You've got this quasi-civil war over who's in charge, and I think this shows that President Trump has put the Iranians on defense. And this is not a position the Iranians are used to being in.
Right, the Iranians on defense, the confusion mixed in with that, Karine, that's actually good for the people inside Iran.
It is, but we have to keep up the pressure, and this is something that the president knows how to do. I spent a lot of time covering during the Biden years the back and forth negotiations with the Iranians. And look, they're willing to be patient, and they clearly don't care about the costs that it takes on their civilian population. And so I think that the president has the leverage right now. Obviously, he's done a lot of military damage to say, you know what, here are our demands. You have to follow them. If not, we'll come back and we'll hit hard. I don't know that negotiating with these guys is even a good idea at this point.
Yeah. Karine, Steve, Aaron, thank you all. Well, breaking tonight, Virginia voters narrowly approving a Democrat-backed redistricting referendum that could shift the balance of power in the nation's capital. The senior national correspondent, Kevin Cork, is live at the big board in D.C. with an update. Kevin, good evening.
Trey, it's great to be with you. If you've been watching the Virginia districts, well, listen, it's 51-48 tonight, but if you've been watching this state over the last several election cycles, you kind of figured it was going to be something like this, but here's what this really means. Let me show you. If you dive inside the numbers, right now it's 6-5, the Democrats leading here in the Commonwealth, but thanks to this newly drawn map, 10-1 in favor.
Good evening. I'm Trace Gallagher. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast, 8 o'clock here in Los Angeles, and this is America's Late News, Fox News at Night. And breaking tonight, political balance on the ballot. Virginians voting to redraw the state congressional districts, which could cost Republicans up to 4 seats in the House. Plus, President Trump extending the ceasefire with Iran, keeping the U.S. blockade in place, and now waiting for a response.
The president's made it clear what his objectives are. You're going to capitulate and meet my objectives, or we're going to call the shots, and we can ratchet it up at any time we want.
Also breaking tonight, the federal government announcing charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center, accusing the left-wing organization of funneling millions of dollars to the very groups it claims to condemn.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
We'll have much more on that, but we begin with extending the ceasefire and trying to clarify the timeline for more peace talks. Christina Coleman is live with the new information on this. Christina, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Trace. The U.S. is extending its ceasefire with Iran indefinitely at the request of Pakistan. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. This as the Trump administration keeps the Navy blockade in place to try and pressure Iran into releasing its stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's foreign minister is condemning that action, writing, quote, blockading Iranian ports is an act of war and thus a violation of the ceasefire. Striking a commercial vessel and taking its crew hostage is an even greater violation. Meantime, analysts say Iran is in a very tough spot.
If they submit, they're going to be humiliated, so they don't want to do that, whoever's in charge. Or they can attack and send some missiles. If they do that, they're going to lose big time their infrastructure. Or I think the most viable they think is to drag this out and out.
Meantime, Pakistan continues to work to get both Iran and the U.S. to the table for another round of peace talks. Trace.
Christina, thank you. Let's bring in Israeli Special Ops veteran Aaron Cohen, former Deputy National Security Advisor Steve Yates, and Washington Post editorial member Karine Hajar. Thank you all for coming on. Steve Yates, to you first. I want to play some sound. This is the chief strategist for the Middle East Forum.
Anybody who says this fracture between the religious leadership and the military and their civilian political leadership is a bad thing doesn't understand how to break a tyrannical regime. Of course we want them arguing with each other. Anybody who thinks they're ahead in this game is not paying attention.
What do you think, Steve? Is he right?
I basically agree with that. And when you take away 2 or 3 layers of a leadership, you're going to have lack of coordination, and that is a good thing when you had a theocratic regime that was terrorizing a region and pursuing the world's worst weapons. We've degraded so many of the big strategic power projection capabilities of Iran. There are remnants that can strike out in tactical ways that are problematic, but I think the president has been gradually upping the pressure and upping capabilities to compel an outcome. I think the last part of this at this point is going to be the financial tools that are in the Secretary of Treasury's hands and keeping the embargo in place. I really don't think they have more than a matter of days, if at most a couple of weeks, before economic pressure is overwhelming for whatever the remnants are trying to hold on to.
I think he's right. I think they are, Aaron Cohen, trying to compel this outcome, whatever that might be. Reuters headline reads the following here: Trump's ceasefire extension, a ploy to buy time, in quotation marks, for surprise strike. Advisor to Iran's top negotiator says. I mean, is Trump trying to buy time here? Because all we've heard is, oh, Iran's trying to buy time. Maybe Trump's trying to buy some time here too, Aaron. What do you think?
I think that President Trump, I think that the United States, I think that Israel has been in control of this operation for the last 2.5 months. Over 14,000 targets have been hit. Over 200 of Iran top leaders have been eliminated, Trace, assassinated. The head of the IRGC, the head of Navy, the head of their intelligence. The supreme leader, by the way, is no longer with us, Trace. Right. Everything here is about President Trump's total control over this highly thought out operation. I think this time allows the United States military to regroup. I think it allows them to reassess new target packages if they need to escalate. And I think it allows them to rearm if they decide to escalate. And the fact is that Trump is the one who is in complete operational control of this entire mission packet. And right now, Iran is completely discombobulated. They've got no leadership left, Trace.
Yeah, well, certainly few. I mean, that's the whole whole thing is. The question is who those few are. The president posted this on Truth Social, Karine Hajar. He says, quoting here, to the Iranian leaders who will soon be in negotiation with my representatives, I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. I am sure that they will respect the fact that you did so. Please do them no harm. Would be a great start to our negotiation. He's talking about women who are about to be executed. It would be a great start. Kind of a message to the Iranian people as well, Karine.
Yes, this is certainly a message, and we have to remember that at the beginning of the year, the president really stood up for protesters and dissenting voices in Iran. Now, I think this is both an opportunity for the Iranians to prove that they're going to come to the table, but this is also a test for the president. Remember, he said that he was going to be there for the protesters, and of course, what followed was a brutal crackdown from the regime. And so I really hope that the regime obviously does the right thing, but never underestimate the mullah's capability for great evil.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The former Deputy CENTCOM Commander Robert Harward was talking on the Ingram angle tonight, Steve Yates. He said the following.
What's clear is the president controls not only the strategy, but the tempo. They've been heavy on rhetoric, less on action, and the president's made it clear what his objectives are. You're going to capitulate and meet my objectives, or we're going to call the shots, and we can ratchet it up at any time we want, be it tomorrow if he's so inclined. How long can they keep their power on? How long can they feed their people? So that's the game here.
The most interesting part of that soundbite to me, Steve Yates, is when he says that he's actually controlling the tempo here, and I think it's a fair assessment. What do you think?
I do. I agree, too. The president has been very gradualist in this. It's not like a lot of other campaigns where you could have gone in with shock and awe and taken over a country and try to run it yourself. In some ways, that is more efficient, but we learned from sad experience it doesn't always work well in the aftermath. And so there's been this combination, a joint operation with Israel that is unprecedented also, many opportunities for allies to come in, some of which have chosen not to. So he's sort of bobbing and weaving and assessing, but really in the last week plus, I think we've been replenishing. And so I think we have added capability if we need to amp up to really take out the threats that are coming from the Iranian side of the Gulf out. I think we have a replenished force ready to do so, and the Iranians have to know that at some level.
Yeah, I mean, he says bobbing and weaving, Aaron. A lot of people have said, you know, the president might be playing a little bit of rope-a-dope if you go back to the George Foreman days, right? And the whole idea is that, you know, some have said maybe it's time to take Carg Island. Maybe it's time to go in there and do something dramatic and bold. What do you think?
I think Carg Island is and will always be on the table. It's the centrifuge of Iran's gasoline hub. Without it, they're starved. At the end of the day, I think what we're seeing right now is what I call the economic pressure campaign. The Strait, which Iran does not and has never controlled, is completely controlled by the U.S. Navy. Carg Island is just a stone throw away. If the IRGC, which Trump has just given an extension to, can't really figure out, Trace, who's running the show at this point right now, Trump could escalate, take that island, put his finger on the remnants of the pressure, a valve on their throat. End of story. Iran's lights go out. Regime completely collapses.
Former U.S. Special Representative for Iran talked about the deep confusion, Karine. Here's what he said.
Anytime you have deep confusion inside of a dictatorship, you know that they're on the defensive. This isn't typically how dictatorships behave. You've got this quasi-civil war over who's in charge, and I think this shows that President Trump has put the Iranians on defense. And this is not a position the Iranians are used to being in.
Right. The Iranians on defense, the confusion mixed in with that, Karine, that's actually good for the people inside Iran.
It is, but we have to keep up the pressure, and this is something that the president knows how to do. I spent a lot of time covering during the Biden years the back and forth negotiations with the Iranians. And look, they're willing to be patient, and they clearly don't care about the costs that it takes on their civilian population. And so I think that the president has the leverage right now. Obviously, he's done a lot of military damage to say, you know what, here are our demands. You have to follow them. If not, we'll come back and we'll hit hard. I don't know that negotiating with these guys is even a good idea at this point.
Yeah. Karine, Steve, Aaron, thank you all. Well, breaking tonight, Virginia voters narrowly approving a Democrat-backed redistricting referendum that could shift the balance of power in the nation's capital. The senior national correspondent, Kevin Cork, is live at the big board in D.C. with an update. Kevin, good evening.
Trey's great to be with you. If you've been watching the Virginia districts, well, listen, it's 51-48 tonight, but if you've been watching this state over the last several election cycles, you kind of figured it was going to be something like this, but here's what this really means. Let me show you. If you dive inside the numbers, right now it's 6-5, the Democrats leading here in the Commonwealth, but thanks to this newly drawn map, 10-1 in favor of the Democrats. Again, that's if it can make its way through the courts. So now you may be saying, all right, Kevin, what does that mean? Well, it means this, couple things. First of all, this is big money. The Democrats really poured in a lot of cash. They wanted this thing big time, $55 million to $23 million. The Democrats really wanted it all, and they really got what they wanted, but it's not final yet. Yeah, they're going to possibly pick up 4 here in Virginia, but look at Florida, Missouri, and Louisiana, all leaning GOP. They could pick up some seats there. Now, those are the ones that have not been enacted. These already are in the books, beginning with the state of Texas, which, of course, ignited this fire. California and Utah, 6 there total for the Democrats, but again, the GOP can pick up maybe as many as 8. But again, Trace, it all boils down to that right there. Will it withstand judicial muster? We'll all find out together. Back to you.
State Supreme Court might want to weigh in
There
on
you
that.
go.
Kevin Cork live for us in D.C. Kevin, thank you.
You bet.
Well, the Fox News at Night Common Sense Department would like a word, and the word is awesome. It means inspiring awe or extremely impressive. Awesome is also the word Connecticut Democrat Senator Chris Murphy posted on X in response to a headline reading, quote, at least 26 Iranian vessels bypass U.S. blockade, which, by the way, the U.S. Navy denies. But when Senator Murphy posted, quote, awesome, he got pushback. So Murphy downplayed it by saying his awesome response was sarcasm. Then when he was asked if he would take down his alleged sarcastic response, Murphy simply said he'd be more careful about sarcasm. That sounds like a no. Recently, when he describes the president's handling of the war, Murphy uses words like bungling and mismanaged. So when he pulls against Trump, he's serious. When he pulls for Iran, he's kidding. Except, is he kidding? Because the senator has a history of pulling for Iran. A few years ago, he wanted to take the IRGC off the U.S. foreign terrorist list and remove all their sanctions. Murphy also called the assassination of terror leader Qasem Soleimani, quote, the equivalent of the Iranians assassinating the U.S. Defense Secretary. Common Sense thinks Senator Murphy is either super humorous and super sarcastic, or he's taken swings at the wrong team, which is not very, what's the word? Awesome. Let's bring in political commentator Aaron Wexler and former DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. Thank you both for coming on. It's kind of interesting, but I want to put this. This is the Spanberger thing, Aaron Wexler, to you. She came out. She made a comment about this very close vote. She had to say this. Watch.
Virginians understood that it all began when President Trump said that he was entitled to additional congressional seats and when Republican legislature after Republican legislature obliged him. It's essential that there's a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives come next January. We need a House of Representatives that will be in the majority to conduct vigorous oversight.
Yeah, everybody from Spanberger to Hakeem Jeffries blamed Trump for this, but the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, you know, they might see it a different way, Aaron. What do you think about it?
It's pretty incredible how they're able to blame President Trump for absolutely everything, including the fact that they just won this amendment, which should really be a wake-up call for everyone on the right. This, to me, is a domino that is just the beginning of a cascading effect down the road. Right now, the right is asleep at the wheel. We now have 49% of Virginians being represented by 9%. If this is really what goes forward and if the Supreme Court does not overturn this ruling. So I'd be working very hard to mobilize because that is what the left did, even if they're going to blame President Trump for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Meantime, Common Sense was talking about Senator Murphy and his awesome comment on, here's what he said about this, Tricia, and I'll get your response.
Yeah, Twitter's become kind of a cesspool. I probably should give up on sarcasm on Twitter. Obviously, anybody that's seen anything that I have said about Trump's war knows that I think it's bungled, mismanaged, and he should end it as quickly as possible. But sarcasm is not something, I guess, that's allowed on Twitter any longer.
But he's going to keep the sarcasm quote up. Doesn't want to take it down. At least he wouldn't say he'd take it down.
Yeah, I'd recommend to the senator that he should avoid using sarcasm when he's talking about military exercises that our men and women of the U.S. Navy are risking their lives to conduct. And oh, by the way, it looks a lot like he was pushing Iranian propaganda. But Trace, I think this speaks to an even broader point that the Democrat politicians, the Democrat Party at large, has a big problem rooting against the USA. I mean, in 2024 at the DNC convention, we saw flag burnings. We've seen sittings, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar saying she wants to put Somalia first. We have a Congresswoman Illinois who says she's going to put Guatemala first ahead of the United States. We see this time and time again. And if you want to be a leader in the United States of America, you have to love the country. If not, you're not fit to lead it.
Yeah, that's exactly. Meantime, RFK Jr., he came to talk about his budget cuts to the Health and Human Services thing, and the Democrats didn't really want to talk about anything except those budget cuts. Here's a little sample of what happened on Capitol Hill.
Do you know what Trump's reckless, illegal war with Iran is costing us right now? Do you have any idea?
Frank, I remember when you were the champion.
All right, I'm not going to get into it because you're not going to answer the question. As of April 10th,
you
the
said some
American
things about my family
enterprise,
I'd like to
excuse
reply
me,
to.
I'm cutting you off.
Did you change your views on vaccines?
You want a soundbite or do you want to have a discussion? Because what you're saying is absolutely wrong.
Well, it's best for everybody to just simmer down.
Yeah, they can say what they want, Aaron, but he can't say what he wants, and he starts to go after them, and they don't want to hear that either.
He showed so much more restraint than I would have been able to in that moment. I mean, why is RFK responsible for speaking to what President Trump is spending when it comes to Iran? It is such a non sequitur. And on top of that, what's really incredible about these discussions around budget cuts regarding RFK and what he's doing, they're not budget cuts. Only in Washington, D.C. is a 49% increase in spending considered a budget cut. So this is all histrionics, theatrics. We know this. The left is a bunch of failed theater kids that wound up in D.C. because they weren't attractive enough to end up in L.A. And so that's why we have this insane kind of hearing that is a non sequitur and really is not getting to the root of the issue, which is not even an issue.
Tricia, you talked about those Americans who don't like America. Here's a Congress member who seems to love Cuba. Watch.
I worked on global health for 10 years before coming to Congress, so it's an area that I'm very interested in. Cuba has a remarkable public health system, lowest infant mortality, maternal mortality, sort of the opposite of what the United States has.
Higher life expectancy.
Higher life expectancy, early cancer diagnosis, right?
Nobody's got it better than the Cubans. What do you think?
It amazes me that those who immigrate to this country and who are now leaders of this country, members of Congress, they go out of their way to try and tear down the very institutions they came to join, the very country they came to join, to demonize this country and the systems that make it great, including capitalism, and as they glorify these regimes that are lack human rights and really go after their own people. Trace, it's such a shame to see, but I'm sure we'll see more of it in the Democrat Party.
Yeah, Tricia McLaughlin, Aaron Wexler, thank you both.
We have 1/3 of all the hospices in the entire country in Los Angeles, not California, in LA. That's a number, it's 5,800 nationally, 1,800 in Los Angeles. That's impossible. How many people are dying in Los Angeles? So there's clearly not just fraud, but weaponized fraud and almost a deliberate aversion of the glance of government to not see what is so evident to everybody on the ground.
Dr. Mehmet Oz speaking on the scope of the alleged health care fraud in California. Let's bring in Manhattan Institute senior fellow Chris Rufo. Chris, great to have you on the show. I mean, he makes a very good point of all the fraud that's hit in California. There's no lawsuits. There's nobody that is saying, oh, they're fighting for their hospice to stay open. Nope, they're just turning and walking away because they got busted.
Yeah, they're walking away, and they're likely fleeing the country in some cases because HHS officials have told me that somewhere between 15 and 25% of all Medi-Cal spending in the state of California goes to fraud. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars per year. And so this is quite welcome. This focus on fraud is essential. We can't just be sending money to criminals.
Yeah, meantime, you had Fox News writing this about Gavin Newsom. He says Gavin Newsom's office confirmed to Fox News Digital that illegal immigrants receive the same coverage as low-income Californians under Medi-Cal, including access to sex reassignment, hormone therapy, and procedures. Come to California illegally, get sanctuary protections, and get sex reassignment surgery on us.
Yeah, that's right, Trace. And I was on the ground in San Francisco, and my team talked to a number of homeless, transgender, illegal aliens who told us firsthand that they were getting free transgender sex surgeries from the state of California. It's something that is so deranged, so almost impossible sounding, and yet the governor himself confirms that they're proud to do it.
Can I just read this to you, Chris, because I have to. It's Governor Newsom on, this is quintessential Gavin Newsom. He writes the following, and I want your response. California is the national model for cracking down on fraud and protecting public dollars. Meanwhile, Trump weakens oversight, lets bad actors skate, and even pardons fraudsters who cozy up to him. I mean, they are in the middle of this multi-billion, and he's like, oh, no, it's not, it's those guys.
Yeah, Trace, I mean, Gavin Newsom has one superpower. It's shamelessness. He's willing to say whatever it takes to maintain his own power, his own authority, his own political rise. But the evidence is overwhelming that California has more fraud than any other state in the union. Gavin Newsom has systematically dismantled oversight since the very beginning of his term. And so the question is whether the fraud will catch up to Newsom before he runs for president, or whether Newsom can slip through.
You wrote this with Kenneth Schrupp, and I want to put this up. Daily Wire officials projected a 2025 completion date for the overpass and estimated that the entire bridge, which includes the bridge and other ancillary developments, would cost $92 million, some coming from private philanthropists. Nearly 4 years after the ceremony, the bridge is past due. This is the Butterfly Bridge, by the way, and the project some $21 million over budget. Newsom says it's inflation caused by Trump. Final thoughts.
It's a bridge for butterflies. It costs more than $100 million. It's 4 years behind schedule. It's just an overpass over the freeway. Other states, other countries can build these things for $5 million. Gavin Newsom is running a scam in California, and all you have to do is open your eyes.
A bridge for butterflies, $121 million. Chris Rufo, great to have you on the show. We appreciate it. Breaking tonight, a sweeping indictment accusing the Southern Poverty Law Center of funneling money to the same extremist groups that they denounce.
They used the fraudulently raised money by lying to their donor network, thousands of Americans, to go ahead and actually pay the leadership of these supposed violent extremist groups.
Later in the nightcap, a growing number of bars and restaurants banning the use of cell phones. Good idea? Bad idea? Why? Let us know. Instagram at Trace Gallagher. Will read your responses in the nightcap. Plus, Congressman Mike Lawler spars with MS Now host Katie Tur over the media's narrative in Iran.
There's a new Ayatollah who might be much more hardline.
The best reporting. You all repeat the same. You all repeat the same talking point. You all repeat the same talking point.
MSNBC or MS Now reviving the Ayatollah who we haven't heard from. The viral confrontation is next. Well, breaking tonight, the Justice Department accusing the Southern Poverty Law Center of funneling money to some of the extremists the organization supposedly works to monitor. Ashley Strohmeyer is live in the New York City newsroom with more on this. Ashley, good evening.
Hi, Trace. The indictment filed in federal court in Alabama accuses the Southern Poverty Law Center of paying leaders of the Ku Klux Klan and other controversial groups, contrary to the organization's stated mission to fight hatred. The charges include 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering.
The SPLC was paying a member of the leadership group that planned the Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 that resulted in the death of one person and injured dozens more.
Before today's indictment, the SPLC released a statement, and it reads in part, quote, "This use of informants was necessary because we are no stranger to threats of violence. For decades, we engaged in unprecedented litigation to dismantle the Klan and other hate groups. We frequently shared that we learned from informants with local and federal law enforcement, including the FBI." That group, though, says it no longer uses paid informants, Trace.
Ashley, thank you. Let's bring in host of the weekly rap sheet on Fox Nation, Josh Ritter, and immigration attorney Esther Valdez-Clayton. Thank you both for coming on. A little bit more sound here. Josh, this is for you. The acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Imagine a donor to the SPLC if they were told, by the way, we're going to give the money you're giving us to the Ku Klux Klan. The very entities that this group was raising money to go against are the very entities that they were taking the money in and paying to these entities and these individuals associated with those groups.
Yeah, he's saying you pay them money, you let them go in, Josh, and then you let them gin up more of the problems so you can say those people are bad and we need to knock those problems down. What do you think?
This story is so wild. I had to read this story a couple of times before I could wrap my head around exactly what was happening here. Talk about not staying inside of your lane. And their excuse for this is that they're now running informants? Is that what we're supposed to believe, that they're acting as some sort of quasi-law enforcement undercover investigatory agency here, paying informants? Oh, and by the way, while you're trying to run informants as a non-law enforcement agency, you're also committing wire fraud and money laundering. This is a complete mess, and it took me a while to even figure out what their theory was behind this.
Yeah, and I'll put this on because this is part of the money list. Here it is: $1 million to the National Alliance affiliate, $300K to the Aryan Nations affiliate, $270+ to Unite the Right members, $140K to former National Alliance chairman. How about $73K to former KKK members? And the list goes on. The DOJ says the donors were never told the money would be used in this fashion. What do you think, Esther?
This is a 501c3 nonprofit organization funded for racial justice and to protect black and brown people like myself from racial injustice. And when in fact they're not just funding the problem, they're creating the problem, they're fundraising off the problem, and then funneling more money off to Democrat organizations to say, we have racial hatred here that we have to combat. This is the essence of wire fraud and precisely why they're being investigated by the FBI and state authorities.
Yeah. Meantime, we had the illegal immigrant, 19 years old. He was a high school, apparently groper. He was convicted, got 360 days. Good behavior, Josh. Throw the other stuff in, time served. Looks like he's got 135 more days to serve. There were a litany of different victims, but they didn't give us the list. Works out to, you know, somewhere between 20 and 30 days per victim. Not exactly the book thrown at this guy.
It's absolutely laughable. And what are we doing here? How exactly are we protecting our children in these schools and the law enforcement, by the way, and the prosecutors involved in all of this? Don't give me this, that their hands were tied. This is misdemeanor allegations. This is systematic serial abuse and assault, and you can do something about it. Having been a prosecutor, I know they could have done more about this. They chose not to, and instead now it's become not only a laughable situation, but an incredibly dangerous situation for all those girls whose voices are not heard.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we're playing a parent now from the Fairfax High School, and she says that he's 22. The suspect or the convicted person on this is 19 years old, but here's the sound.
I think there's probably nobody who wants a 22-year-old adult male walking the halls with their 13-year-old ninth grader. This isn't a political issue. I'm a Republican in a very deep blue Democrat county. I have a lot of Democrat friends who are upset about what happened here.
Nobody's happy about this. Nobody's happy about the sentence, and the defense attorney's out there like, this is butt grabbing, nothing more.
This is a failure not just of the school district. Why was an adult male from El Salvador, who was an undocumented migrant, there with minor girls, groped them between their thighs, and why is he only getting such a light sentence? This problem all started with the Biden administration. He was admitted in 2024. He was not admitted lawfully, not vetted, not inspected correctly, and he's certainly not an asylum seeker. worker. He's here groping people, and since he entered in 2024, he's subject to expedited removal, meaning he's been here less than 2 years. Swiftly, after he completes his criminal sentence, he will be apprehended by ICE if Spanberger allows them to do their job and honor the ICE detainer.
Very quick, CIA agents in Mexico were killed in a car accident. The Claudia Sheinbaum, the president, says she had no idea they were there.
Not only that, but she's outraged that the United States committed an incursion on the Mexican sovereignty, when in fact she should be outraged that the Mexican authorities have consistently allowed and presided over mass caravans of fentanyl, drug trafficking, human trafficking into the United States. And she claims to not know that the United States was there conducting an operation with their Mexican counterparts, when it's very well known that we cooperate with them and we offer them information.
Yeah, I mean, we've already done this. We went down there. They've got to know that people are down there, Josh. I got 10 seconds for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's raising a lot more questions than we certainly have answers to. All of us are saying, how could this not be known? Right. And they're saying that this is catching them all off guard.
Bingo. Josh, Esther, thank you both. Coming up, Maury Povich. Joy Reid, a reality check over the political playbook in Washington.
Well, first of all, Democrats do not play politics the way Republicans do. The difference between the parties, they do not. They do not.
Please. The full clash is next.
There's a new Ayatollah who might be much more hardline.
You say
There's a new Ayatollah who might be much more hardline.
Katie. It's amazing, Katie. Based on what? Based on what? The guy has not even been seen in 8 weeks.
Based on the reporting that we have, the best reporting that we have about him.
The best reporting. You all repeat the same. You all repeat the same talking point. You all repeat the same talking point.
Congressman Mike Lawler accusing MS Now of repeating the same talking point on Iran. Let's bring in Emily Saves America show host Emily Wilson and New York Post reporter Lydia Moynihan. Thank you both for coming on. I don't know, Lydia, I don't know where MSNBC is getting their reporting on the Ayatollah that nobody has seen or has any proof that he's actually alive, but apparently they've got great sources inside Iran, and Mike Lawler's right. There's no reporting. What do you think?
It's been interesting to see how deeply sourced some of these media companies are in Iran, of all places. But this hardline kind of talking point, frankly, doesn't make a lot of sense, because that would assume that somehow his father, the Ayatollah Khamenei, was some sort of moderate conservative who wanted to steer Iran into the 21st century. Of course, that is the opposite. This was a man who funneled billions of dollars to terrorism, made sure that women were raped as punishment, slaughtered his own citizens. This was kind of as bad as it could possibly get, if you can even imagine. So I don't understand how his son, frankly, could be any worse, even if he tried. And so far, the only thing that we've seen from his son is a cardboard cutout with a photo of his head being sort of shown around Iran. So far, we haven't seen anything that would suggest he is more hardline or more problematic than his dad. But maybe if he ever does make a public appearance, that could change.
Yeah, but who knows? They might some nifty reporting in there that's got maybe talked to the Ayatollah in his hospital bed or wherever. Jake Tapper on Colbert talking about, all the journalists at the White House Correspondents Association are going to have a little surprise for the president. Here's the back and forth.
There are a bunch of us that are going to be wearing these. These are from the Reporters Committee for the Free Press. Oh, okay. And because there might be some guests there that are unfamiliar with...
this is the first time that the president is going to be attending, right?
Now that you say so, yes. By the way, I brought you one.
Brought you one, Emily. So the journalists can all walk around the White House Correspondents' Center and just kind of out themselves like this. We are Trump haters. Look at us.
Well, I support the silent part of the silent protest.
Right.
I think that's fantastic, so I won't knock that. So we're used to them with the pins. We've had the Palestine pins. We've had the ICE pins. They had the BLM fist pins. And this time they're mixing it up. So I think this time it's going to move the needle. I feel really confident about it.
Yeah, it really could. It's going to be something. Joy Reid getting schooled, Lydia Moynihan, by Maury Povich.
Democrats do not play politics the way Republicans do. The difference between the parties, they do not. They do not.
Please.
Democrats play by the Marquise de Queensberry rules. I think they do not. They're not rule breakers. They couldn't even hold out on a government shutdown because 8 of them turned tail and gave in. Democrats capitulate and they try to play by the rules. Republicans don't care about the rules. They rewrite the rules.
Yeah, when you get to "Oh Please, Joyce" by Maury Povich, you're on the wrong side of the aisle.
Yeah, I think John Thune, who has made sure that we maintain the filibuster and in so doing don't pass the SAVE Act, I think he would be sort of surprised to hear that conservatives don't care about the rules. Obviously, the sort of conservative impulse that most Republicans have is to preserve things and maintain the status quo. Many on the left are sort of more revolutionary. They want to destroy things. And of course, we're having this conversation just hours after Abigail Spanberger in Virginia pushed a referendum that was so dramatic, it basically gets rid of any Republican seats at all in Virginia, even though Republicans are about 50% of the population there. And she, of course, had run on the fact that she wouldn't do that very thing. And yet, when she got into power, she was very happy to try and change the rules to give Democrats an advantage. So in case you needed a more recent example of how Democrats don't play by the rules, I think we can just point to what happened earlier tonight in Virginia.
Yeah, a lot of Republicans in Virginia hope when the state Supreme Court comes to the rescue there. We shall wait and see. Meantime, Chuck Schumer would not comment on Michigan's far-left Senate candidate, Abdul El-Sayed. He's the one, by the way, who said that Israel is as evil as Hamas. Watch.
Recently, one of the leading Senate candidates in Michigan, Democratic candidates, said that the Israeli government was just as evil as Hamas. You have voted to continue those arms sales. Are you on the wrong side of public opinion in your party on this issue?
Our caucus is united and focused on ending the war in Iran. And that's why we're going to be voting tomorrow on Baldwin's resolution, and we're going to keep voting on those resolutions again and again and again.
That's not answering the question, Emily. That's exactly what it is. Chuck Schumer just walking away like, see ya, I'm not answering that question.
That was actually a perfect political response because he absolutely didn't even answer it. He really actually didn't acknowledge it. The best thing you could have said is like, I condemn that. I don't agree with that. And also, it's a very unserious statement. If you truly believe that, which I don't think these people do, but it does show you they're kind of catering to a certain base that is very extreme and very dangerous and just anti-American all around.
And when you say you're united, your party's united, it kind of, indicates that you're maybe united with the guy that you might, be working with very soon. Emily, Lydia, thank you both. Well, a growing number of bars and restaurants now banning the use of cell phones. You don't want them in. They don't want you on your phone while you're having dinner or eating drinks. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Why? Let us know. X, Instagram, at Trace Gallagher. We're back with the Nightcap crew. It always includes you, and it is next.